Chapter 31-23. What? How dare you threaten us? Ayu screamed. Young Master Shin roared. Damn brat, I'll fight you to the death. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Suddenly, countless flames appeared on young Master Shin's body and enveloped him. Young Master Shin screamed. Damn it, get lost. With a cold shout, a blue gourd rushed out from the top of his head. Countless Milky Way flew out and formed a monstrous sea. It enveloped him and tried to extinguish the flames. However, he realized that he could not do it. No matter how many magical powers he used, the flames continued to burn. With a plop, young Master Shin knelt on the ground. I was wrong. Forgive me. I'll definitely help you prepare the spiritual herbs. As soon as he finished speaking, the flames merged into his body and disappeared. Young Master Shin fell to the ground. His body was charred black. The smell of barbecued meat filled the air. The armor on his body, the defensive jade pendant, and the necklace were all shattered. Everyone was stunned. Those who were kneeling on the ground started to tremble. Demon. This young man was simply a demon. What kind of means was this? It was simply a miracle. Originally they wanted to join forces with Wang Gong to kill him. But now they did not dare to do so. Just a look from him could set them on fire. If he wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. Damn it. It's the flames he planted in our bodies. Wang Gong clenched his fists. It seemed that he could only agree to the other party's request. After leaving, he would look for his family and sect to find a solution. Therefore, these people all said obediently, Don't worry, young Master Lin. We'll do our best to find the spiritual herbs for you. Well, Lin Xian nodded and said again, Also, Fang Hao is my brother. I don't want him to be in any danger in the future. If Fang Hao is hurt, I won't forgive you. Of course I won't do it. But the Bloody Blade King will do it for me. Hearing this, everyone trembled again. It seemed that the last trace of revenge was gone. Alright, get lost. Lin Xian waved his hand and blew Wang Gong and the others into the sky. Then he turned to look at Fang Hao. Let's go and have a drink. Fang Hao froze for a moment, then followed Lin Xian excitedly. Qing Qing and the woman in black were also stunned. However, they soon heard Lin Xian's voice. Both of you don't just stand there. Come over together. The two of them were also overjoyed and followed after him. Wang Gong, Hai Yu, young Master Shin, and the others were blown away. Then they quickly recovered their legs and left Giant Armor City as if they were fleeing from something. They had to return to their respective clans and sects to discuss how to deal with the situation. They had all seen the information that Lin Xian had given them. Moreover, he had requested for them to be at least 5,000 years old. This was a sky-high price. Although they were all big clans, to come up with such a spirit medicine at the very least, they would have to use a large amount of their clan's financial resources. They weren't the patriarchs of their families, they were just members of the younger generation. They didn't even know if their families would do this for them. Furthermore, no one would be willing to hand over these king medicines to the other party for free. Especially people like Wang Gong and Hai Yu, they were even more unwilling. Therefore they had to quickly find a solution. It would be best if they could get rid of the flames in their bodies. This way the other party wouldn't be able to threaten them anymore. On the other side, in the Thousand Herb Hall. In the magnificent hall, corpses and blood were still there. However, at this moment, a few more figures were standing there. Two of them were the Bloody Blade Monarch and Madame Hua. The other figures were the experts who had just arrived at the Thousand Herb Hall to look for their elders. When they saw the countless kings' corpses in the hall, their scalps went numb. What kind of battle had happened just now? Why didn't they sense it? One had to know that although a battle between kings was protected by a formation, it would still be earth-shattering. Especially when so many kings attacked together. They would probably tear down the entire Thousand Herb Hall. However, they didn't even sense a trace of energy. Therefore, there was only one possibility, instant kill. Thinking of this, their scalps went numb. In front, Madame Hua looked at the Bloody Blade Monarch and asked carefully, My lord, what should we do? Should we report this to the Qi clan? Let the Qi clan send experts to kill that kid. Nonsense. The Bloody Blade Monarch suddenly exploded, and a sea of blood surged from his body. Madame Hua was so frightened that she knelt on the ground, trembling. The Bloody Blade Monarch was like a demonic god as he said coldly, You all saw what happened today. A young man instantly killed more than a dozen kings and defeated the Metal Sword Monarch in one move. Do you think such a person is simple? How could such a person be an ordinary person? Although we are backed by the Qi family, to put it bluntly, we are just dogs of the Qi family. If we really offend an earth-shattering figure, will the Qi clan risk their lives for us? Madame Hua almost fainted when she heard this. The other elders also fell silent. That was indeed the case. Their Thousand Herb Hall was a tyrant and giant armor city. They were even infamous in other cities. However, in the eyes of the Qi clan they were too insignificant. For an existence like the Qi clan, it would be easy for them to kill them. Not to mention the Qi clan, even Lin Xian who had just left could kill them easily. It would probably be as easy as blowing off dust. My lord, don't worry. I understand. I won't dare say such things again. Madame Hua begged for mercy. The Bloody Blade monarch snorted coldly. Get up. Things happened too suddenly. I don't blame you for having such thoughts. As he spoke, he fell silent. He, the Bloody Blade monarch, was only a rogue cultivator in the past. However, he was able to stand above so many geniuses. What did he rely on? It wasn't his talent or hard work. It was his ability to see through people. With this ability, he relied on countless people and finally managed to climb up the Qi clan's branch. That was how he obtained his current status. Now, the feeling that Lin Xian gave him was too dangerous. He had lived for a few hundred years and naturally knew that this young man was too terrifying and had unparalleled potential. He was definitely a true dragon that couldn't be provoked. He had to treat him carefully. Otherwise he would probably die without a burial ground. Pass down the order. Send someone to protect Feng Hao in secret. They couldn't let anything happen to him. He could see that Feng Hao was Lin Xian's friend. Previously, it was because Feng Hao was injured that Lin Xian went against the entire Thousand Herb Hall. He couldn't detect the whereabouts of someone like Lin Xian. Furthermore, he didn't dare to do so. Therefore, the only way he could curry favor with Lin Xian was to protect Feng Hao and even give him many benefits. The elders beside him frowned. They didn't know where this kid came from. We have heard of most of the geniuses on the cloud returning planet. However, this person before us seems very unfamiliar. We don't know. The Bloody Blade monarch shook his head. Perhaps our qualifications are too low and we can't understand the top level. Chapter 31-24. That was indeed the case. Everyone sighed. Although they were powerful, the cloud returning planet was too big. Their myriad herb hall was nothing. Not to mention the 10,000 herb hall, even though the Qi family behind them was a colossus, they weren't the best. There were still other families that were stronger than the Qi family. Furthermore, there was another possibility. The Bloody Blade monarch spoke again. The other elders were puzzled. What possibility? He might not be from the cloud returning planet. What? As soon as he said that, the elders trembled and almost knelt on the ground in fright. Madame Hua almost fainted from fright. If he wasn't from the cloud returning planet, could he be from another planet? I'm just guessing. However, many unfamiliar faces have come to the cloud returning planet recently. You have to know that the ancient starry sky path has already opened. The cloud returning planet is a very important stop. It's not strange for geniuses from other planets to come here. If he really is a genius who has stepped onto the ancient starry sky path, you should know how to treat him. The elders were covered in cold sweat. Of course they knew. A genius who had stepped onto the ancient starry sky path was walking the path of a great emperor. All of them were top-notch geniuses. If they provoked such a person they wouldn't even know how they died. After knowing how terrifying Lin Xian was, the Bloody Blade monarch and the others were even more in awe. Therefore they hurried to take action. First, they sent people to secretly protect Feng Hao. Secondly, they had to do their best to collect the spirit herbs that Lin Xian had left behind. Of course, the Bloody Blade monarch still had to make a trip to the Qi family to report what had happened. On the other side, the four of them were seated in an exquisite and antique private room. There were 2 men and 2 women. They were Lin Xian's group. The woman in the black dress and Qingqing were sizing up Lin Xian with curious eyes. Through their conversations along the way, Lin Xian had learned that the woman in the black dress was called Nailin Yanran. Nailin Yanran seemed to be very interested in Lin Xian. She kept beating around the bush, but in the end she still couldn't figure out where Lin Xian had come from. "Young Master Lin, what are your plans?" Nailin Yanran asked softly. Qingqing and Feng Hao were also watching nervously. Lin Xian drummed his fingers on the table, producing a rhythmic sound. "Next, I will continue to collect spiritual herbs. I need a lot of spiritual herbs, about 1,000 types. Moreover, the years needed were also relatively old, so they had to do their best to collect them. Of course, there was one more thing, but it was up to fate. That is, I'm looking for a furnace." "Furnace? Could it be that young Master Lin is an alchemist?" Qingqing cried out. Nailin Yanran's eyes also lit up. Feng Hao was even more shocked. Alchemist was an occupation that was closely related to martial arts. It had always been sought after by many martial artists. Those alchemy grandmasters were treated as honored guests by the major families. After all, medicinal pills were seriously too important to martial artists. Regardless of whether it was recovery, treatment, breakthroughs, or survival, it could be used at any time. That's right, I am indeed an alchemist. Lin Xian nodded. In his opinion, this might be a very good identity. Moreover, it would help him to collect the spirit herbs he needed faster. No wonder. Nailin Yanran and the others were shocked. No wonder Lin Xian wanted to collect so many spiritual herbs. It turned out that he was an alchemist. Alright, young Master Lin, if you want a furnace, maybe I know a place. Nailin Yanran suddenly said. Oh, what place? Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. He did need a furnace. Previously, he had the 1,000-beast cauldron, but it was not enough now. Most of the pills he refined were for invincible kings. In the future, he would even refine pills for half-saints and sages. Therefore, he had to find a new furnace. The Void Divine Furnace was indeed good, but with Lin Xian's current strength, he could not control it. A few months later, there would be a grand event. At that event, some treasures would be introduced. Among them, there was a furnace that was said to be very impressive. Are you talking about the Tianfang Pavilion? I know about it too. At that time, it would probably attract countless alchemists, experts, and geniuses. It was a grand event. Qing Qing said from the side. Fang Hao nodded. Obviously they all knew about it. The Tianfang Pavilion? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. It seemed that he would have to make a trip there when the time came. Everyone chatted until late at night. The next day Lin Xian bade farewell to the three of them. After all, both sides had their own things to do. Lin Xian also wanted to take a look around the cloud-returning planet. Brother Lin, goodbye. Fang Hao looked at Lin Xian, his heart filled with emotions. On the other hand, Nailin Yanran waved her small hand. Young Master Lin, see you at the Tianfang Pavilion. Lin Xian waved his hand, turned into a flash of sword light, and disappeared into the sky. Then he summoned the little white monkey. This guy's treasure hunting ability was unparalleled. The little white monkey controlled the treasure bowl and pointed in a direction. Lin Xian increased his speed. A few days later he stopped. Below was an endless dark swamp. Lin Xian used his heavenly secret god eyes and could sense the many auras coming from below. Among them there were many auras that made him feel refreshed. It seemed that this was really a treasure trove. His figure flashed and he brought the little white monkey into the forest below. In the dark swamp below, there were countless figures moving. These people were all invincible kings. There were dozens of them. The leader was a cold-looking woman in white. She was very eye-catching in the dark swamp. Second Miss, we've been walking for many days but we still haven't found it. Is the news fake? An old man beside her frowned and asked. The woman in white called Second Miss said coldly, continue searching. Even if it takes 8 to 10 years you must find it. Hearing this, the invincible kings behind her sped up. There was even a majestic array in the sky that spread out in all directions as they moved. There was an ancient mirror above the woman in white's head. It shone in all directions and emitted thousands of auras. It was obvious that they were looking for something. The woman in white was called Qi Xiu. She was the little princess of the Qi family and had a high status. This time, she came to the dark swamp to find a spirit medicine called the sky silkworm fruit. This was because an old ancestor of the Qi family was seriously injured, and it was getting worse. If he couldn't be cured, he would probably die in less than 10 years. This was an outcome that the Qi family didn't want to see. However, the Qi family had searched for countless methods over the years, but they couldn't cure the old ancestor. Recently, Qi Xiu saw in an ancient book that there might be hope for the sky silkworm fruit. Therefore, she asked around and finally found a trace of information. In the depths of the dark swamp, there was a sky silkworm fruit. Therefore, Qi Xiu brought a large number of invincible kings to search for it. However, they had been searching for a month and hadn't found it. The dark swamp was too vast. If they searched aimlessly, they probably wouldn't be able to finish searching in a few years. Fortunately, Qi Xiu was the little princess of the Qi family and had many treasures in her hands. Therefore, she was confident that she could greatly reduce the search time. Buzz buzz buzz. Chapter 31-25. What's going on? The invincible kings stopped and were bewildered. Qi Xiu was overjoyed. There was a reaction. It seemed that the sky silkworm fruit was nearby. Increase the range. She shouted and formed a seal with her palms. The ancient mirror above her head suddenly erupted with light, and beams of light shot out in all directions. The others looked on with joy. Was there finally going to be a result? It's on the left. Follow me. The group of people quickly attacked, tore through the void and flew into the distance. In front of them, a white light lit up. It was exceptionally eye-catching in the dark swamp, so Chisiu saw it in an instant. There it was. Judging from its shape, it really seemed to be the sky silkworm fruit. Many invincible kings behind also saw it. Although it was only a glance, they would not be mistaken. It was a white fruit that looked like a silkworm lying there. In an instant, it disappeared into the darkness. Great, I finally found it. Chisiu was very happy. Her figure flickered and rushed forward. However, in the next moment, her expression changed and she quickly dodged to the side. A strange roar came from the darkness ahead. Then the void broke open and more than 10 black shadows rushed out. Whoosh! Accompanying them was a demonic aura that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Suddenly, a violent wind blew, sand and rocks flew, and lightning interweaved around. It was a terrifying scene of destruction. Not good, it's a demonic beast. The invincible kings behind them also changed their expressions. Hurry up and attack. An old man roared and slashed out with the longsword in his hand. Boundless sword chi swept out like the Milky Way and slashed forward. The other invincible kings also attacked with all kinds of divine abilities. The void was torn open and the darkness rolled. The dozen or so black shadows also appeared in front of everyone. There were more than a dozen bats and each of them was a 9-star demonic beast king. A gentle flap of their wings was enough to destroy mountains and rivers. Not good, it's the soul-devouring bats. Everyone be careful. Chisiu shouted in a low voice. She also pulled out a silver longsword and swept it in all directions. The other invincible kings also moved quickly. In an instant, an earth-shattering battle broke out. On the other side, a red figure descended into the dark swamp. It was Lin Xian. The little white monkey standing on his shoulder was very excited. The treasure bowl above its head shone with a mysterious light. From time to time, it would snatch spiritual fruits and spiritual herbs from the air. One's own line, the little white monkey was very happy. Lin Xian activated his Tianji God eyes and scanned his surroundings. As his soul dispersed, his brows suddenly twitched. There was a chaotic energy ahead. It seemed like there was a battle going on. A dragon image appeared under his feet, carrying him as he quickly flew forward. Up ahead, the divine abilities that filled the sky disappeared, and a bloody mist drifted about. More than 10 soul-devouring bats were smashed to pieces, and their corpses fell into the swamp and were swallowed up. Chisiu heaved a sigh of relief. She had brought more than 30 invincible kings with her this time, and all of them were powerful. A dozen soul-devouring bats were nothing in their eyes. Boom. After dealing with these soul-devouring bats, Chisiu and the rest continued forward. However, in the next moment, an earth-shattering sound rang out. Immediately after, a violent force once again came from the darkness ahead. It made one's soul tremble and want to kneel down. Not good. Chisiu stopped, and the 30 invincible kings behind her also looked serious. There were also demonic beasts. They knew that there were powerful demonic beasts guarding around the treasures. They thought that there were only a dozen soul-devouring bats before. Now, it seemed that it was not that simple. In the darkness, there was an even more terrifying existence. Boom, boom. A deep sound rang out, and the roar was like 100,000 thunder descending. An enormous figure walked out from the crowd. Not good, it was the demonic lightning ape. That was an extinct mutated species of heaven and earth. Why would it appear here? The old man's pupils constricted. Chisiu also became nervous. The demonic lightning ape was an extremely terrifying demonic beast king. Its physique was strong and it could use the violent power of thunder. It had already gone extinct in the outside world. Who would have thought that there would be one hidden in this dark swamp? Don't worry, second miss, we have more people this time. Even if it's a mutated species of heaven and earth, so what? A middle-aged man snorted coldly. He had a long spear in his hand that was as ferocious as a dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. With a cold snort, the long spear swept out, turning into an eternal light that flew out. The spear pierced through the 9 heavens and countless runes danced in the air, piercing towards the demonic lightning ape's head. Boom. A hint of disdain appeared in the demonic lightning ape's huge eyes. It opened its mouth and spat out a gust of demonic wind. Whoosh! A powerful storm tore the heavens and earth apart, and it actually shattered the spear light into pieces. Not good, quickly defend. The expressions of the invincible kings and Chisiu changed. They all activated their king domains to cover their bodies. Boom, boom, boom. Earth-shattering collision sounds rang out. They felt as if 100,000 mountains had smashed onto their bodies, causing their bodies to tremble. These people kept retreating and the blood in their bodies churned. Damn it, how could this beast be so strong? One of the invincible kings had an ugly expression. The others were even more frightened. Just a gust of demonic wind had caused them to suffer minor injuries. If they really fought, they were afraid that they would not be a match for the other party. As expected of an extinct mutated species of heaven and earth, it was indeed strong. Chi Siu gripped the long sword in her hand tightly, turned her head and said in a delicate voice, "Everyone, success or failure depends on this. Don't worry, second miss, we have already prepared. That's right, with that array we can definitely kill this beast." Voices rang out one after another. Chi Siu nodded. She was not too worried because they had a set of array in their hands. With more than 30 invincible kings working together to use this array, the power of the array would definitely be beyond imagination. No matter how strong the thunder demonic ape was, it would not be able to withstand it. Bus. More than 30 invincible kings quickly formed the array. Array runes appeared under their feet and spread out in the dark swamp. A terrifying and ferocious aura completely enveloped the thunder demonic ape. Roar. The thunder demonic ape also roared, shaking the 9 heavens. The endless swamp cracked open, and the space kept shattering. He felt threatened, so he took the initiative to attack. Boom. A huge black claw fell from the sky, bringing with it a sky full of thunder. It smashed down like a thunder hammer. Suddenly the array runes kept flickering. More than 30 invincible kings roared and instantly counterattacked. In the sky, 2 balls of energy collided rapidly and then exploded. The vast darkness was completely boiling. In the distance, Lin Xian was flying. Suddenly, he felt a violent energy fluctuation in front of him, and a piercing light burst out from his eyes. What a violent aura, it was much stronger than before. He wondered who it was. He stomped his feet and increased his speed again. Not long after, he saw an intense battle in front of him. Although the energy was violent, he could see it clearly with his heavenly secret god eyes. A black ape as tall as a mountain was constantly attacking, and each attack was accompanied by monstrous thunder. Chapter 31:26. Of course he knew about these exotic beasts. Wuji on his shoulder, the little white monkey curled its lips in disdain, as if it didn't take the demonic thunder ape seriously at all. Lin Xian smiled and rubbed the little guy's head, then looked into the distance again. There were more than 30 figures around the demonic thunder ape, and they were all connected by a formation. Terrifying sword chi, tsunamis and flames soared into the sky, bombarding the demonic thunder ape. It was a very powerful formation with more than 30 invincible kings working together. It seemed like they were a powerful force. Were these people hunting the demonic thunder ape? However, it made sense. After all, it was a rare exotic beast. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, a piercing light burst out from his eyes. Now I can feel another aura. The little white monkey also flew up and floated in the air. It looked around and scratched its ears and cheeks. Buzz. Golden runes flashed in Lin Xian's eyes, and they could pierce through the 9 heavens and the earth. Suddenly he saw a white fruit in the endless darkness. It was like a silkworm lying there. What's that? His heart beat wildly. Sky silkworm fruit. There was a sky silkworm fruit here. He was too excited because the sky silkworm fruit was an extremely important spiritual herb for refining the Saint Breakthrough Pill. Previously he couldn't find it in the 1,000 Herb Hall. He originally thought that he would have to spend a lot of time and effort to get news of the Sky Silkworm Kingdom. He didn't expect to find one here. Moreover, judging from the aura and appearance of the Sky Silkworm fruit, it should be quite old, at least 5,000 years old. He had to get his hands on it. Lin Xian's eyes were burning, and the little white monkey beside him was also making noises. However, Lin Xian smiled and said, "Little guy, I can't let you eat this. I'll find another spiritual fruit for you." Off. The little white monkey let out a breath, looking very unhappy. However, it soon nodded and stretched out a little paw as if it was bargaining with Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "All right, I'll brew some supreme-grade spiritual wine for you." This little fellow was a drunkard. The little white monkey's expression was that of a deal. He began to activate the treasure basin, but soon he looked at Lin Xian and shook his head slightly. Was it too far away? All right, then let's get closer. Lin Xian's figure flickered as he rapidly approached. In front of them, the fierce battle was still going on. The thunder demonic ape was too powerful. Although more than 30 invincible kings had formed a formation, they were still unable to do anything to it. In fact, he was even showing signs of being suppressed. This made Chi Siu very shocked. What kind of demonic beast was this? Wasn't it too terrifying? Fortunately, she had made sufficient preparations this time. Otherwise, she would have lost her life here if she had rushed forward rashly. Suddenly, the thunder demonic ape spat out 100,000 lightning bolts. Its huge head looked into the distance as its body trembled slightly. What's going on? He felt a suppression coming from his bloodline. But how was that possible? Was there anything that could suppress him? He was an extraordinarily powerful mutated species of heaven and earth. Was it an illusion? The thunder demonic ape snorted coldly and turned around again. He stared at the despicable humans around him and began to attack. Chiyu also shouted. The invincible kings around her counterattacked crazily. Today they had to kill this beast here. None of them noticed that a figure was floating rapidly and merging into the void, heading toward the darkness ahead. Is it done? Lin Xian asked. The little white monkey nodded and activated the treasure basin again. The treasure basin emitted a mysterious power, and rays of golden light appeared on the little white monkey's body. Suddenly there was an additional item in the treasure basin. It was the sky silkworm fruit. Got it? Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile as he prepared to leave. However, the thunder demonic ape that was fighting in front of them suddenly roared, and the aura on its body suddenly erupted. Streaks of blood-red runes covered his black-gold body. In the next moment, it completely blasted open the formation. More than 30 invincible kings were sent flying while vomiting blood. Chiyu also suffered a violent impact. She had the ancient mirror floating above her head, and thousands of rays of light shone down to save her life. Even so, the blood in her body was boiling and her jade-like face was pale. Not good, this beast is going berserk. The invincible kings' bodies began to tremble. It was too terrifying. They couldn't defeat the other party even after joining forces. Moreover, now that the other party had gone berserk, their lives were probably in danger. What surprised them was that after the thunder demonic ape went berserk, it didn't pay attention to them. Instead, it suddenly turned around and stared at the endless darkness ahead. Brr. He opened his mouth, and endless energy and thunder gathered, forming a lightning ball that he threw forward. Boom. This lightning ball carried a blood-red light. As soon as it appeared, more than 30 invincible kings and Chiyu all trembled. It was too terrifying. If the other party used this attack, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand it at all. Who was the other party attacking? They didn't know. In an instant, the lightning ball tore through the void, crashed forward, and then suddenly exploded. Not good, retreat. Chiyu and the invincible kings fled crazily. They quickly activated their armor and king domains to defend. Whoosh. They were sent flying. Between heaven and earth, there was a vast expanse of white. Endless thunder surged as if it was about to destroy the world. It lasted for a long time before it gradually subsided. The dark demonic ape was still incomparably furious. Its eyes stared straight ahead. The invincible kings in the surroundings were even more seriously injured. Many of them even had half of their bodies shattered. Fortunately, they didn't die. At this moment, they quickly swallowed pills to recover their bodies. They floated in the void and watched from afar. What was that beast attacking? Chiyu's expression was even more unsightly. Wasn't that where the sky silkworm fruit was? Could it be that the beast wanted to destroy the sky silkworm fruit? Or was there something wrong with the sky silkworm fruit? When she thought of this, her heart jumped to her throat. These people were extremely nervous. The thunder demonic ape roared uneasily. Its eyes were like rainbows, piercing through the void and staring straight ahead. In front of them, darkness rolled and thunder roared. It was a scene of destruction. However, in the end, the energy slowly dissipated. Then, the darkness was like a tide, slapping to both sides, and a figure appeared. That damn beast is so sharp. It actually discovered me. A young man in red appeared in the void, and a hint of surprise appeared on his face. There's someone in front. Chiyu's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. The kings in the surroundings were also going crazy. When did someone go over? Why didn't they know? Could it be that the person stole the sky silkworm fruit and that's why the thunder demonic ape is so angry? The old man said what he thought. Instantly, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, anger appeared on their faces and their eyes burned with anger. Damn it, we were fighting to the death with the thunder demonic ape, but someone stole the fruit in secret? That made them very unhappy. Chapter 31:27. The demonic thunder ape roared. It could feel that the sky silkworm fruit had disappeared. Needless to say, it was done by the red-clothed young man in front of it. With a furious roar, its huge claws grabbed forward with thunder in the sky. Boom, boom. The sound of thunder rang out as if a thunder mountain had descended from the sky. Reckless beast, I wanted to let you live. Since that's the case, you can reincarnate. The red-clothed young man snorted coldly as his eyes emitted a golden light. The next moment he raised his finger and pointed forward. As he pointed, a ball of flame appeared on his fingertip. Then, it shone brightly like a blazing sun. A sword chi flew out from the middle and soared into the sky. Boom! The thunderbolts in the sky were torn apart. Nothing could stop the sword chi wherever it passed. Brr! The demonic thunder ape roared uneasily and wanted to escape. However, the sword was too fast. In an instant its head was chopped off. Demonic blood spurted out and dyed the sky red. The huge body collapsed with a loud bang. The head spun in the air, and the eyes on it were filled with fear. What? The demonic thunder ape was killed. Behind them, Chi Siu and the 30-odd kings were all dumbfounded. Their bodies trembled. Who was this person? Was he a saint? They could not help but kneel down and worship him. One had to know that the 30-odd kings had formed a powerful formation, but they could not do anything to the demonic thunder ape. They were even suppressed. Moreover, when the demonic thunder ape went berserk, it directly injured them. But now, the young man in front of them had killed such a terrifying demonic beast with a single finger. Thinking of this, their scalps went numb. The anger from before also disappeared. Did the other party get the sky silkworm fruit by cheating? What a joke. The other party probably did not care about the demonic thunder ape. Otherwise he would have killed the demonic thunder ape and all of them. No one would have been able to escape. Oh! The snow-white monkey let out a cheerful cry. Its black eyes stared at the corpse of the demonic thunder ape in front of it. Lin Xian was shocked. Little guy, you're interested in this? Whitey let out a cry and rushed forward. The one who attacked just now was Lin Xian, but he didn't expect the snow-white monkey to have such a reaction. The next moment even he was stunned. The snow-white monkey landed on the body of the demonic thunder ape, and the corpse began to tremble. Countless blood-colored runes appeared and surged into the snow-white monkey's body. The mountain-like body also slowly shrank before finally disappearing into thin air. It was actually being absorbed. Lin Xian was also surprised. It seemed that the little white monkey was indeed mysterious. He had previously speculated that the little white monkey should be a mutated species of heaven and earth. Moreover, it was extremely likely that it was a member of the royal family of the ancient royal family. However, he had seen many far ancient royal clan members before, but he had never seen one that was so similar to the little white monkey. Woogie Whitey floated back shakily. Its little belly was bulging as if it had eaten too much. Lin Xian was amused. He took it and placed it on his shoulder. Then he turned around and prepared to leave. Wait a minute. Right at this moment, a cry of surprise came from afar. Lin Xian stopped in his tracks and frowned slightly. A terrifying aura was emitted from his body. Immediately, more than 30 invincible kings behind him trembled. The old man even shouted, "Second miss, please don't be rash." He thought that Chi Siu still wanted to snatch the spirit fruit. They knew that Chi Siu was here to look for the sky silkworm fruit. Now that the sky silkworm fruit had been snatched away, the second miss of the Chi family would definitely not let it go. However, these invincible kings were bitter. If it was an ordinary person, they would have gone up long ago. Even if it was someone at the perfected stage of the invincible realm, they would not be afraid. However, the young man in front of them was too strange. He killed a top monster king with one finger, and the monkey beside him was even more mysterious. They must not provoke such a person. Otherwise all of them would be killed. Chi Siu ignored the old man's warning and said again, "Young master, please wait." At the same time he turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. Seeing this scene, the old man shook his head and sighed. He also followed him. More than 30 invincible kings followed quickly. They could not let the second miss be in danger. Chi Siu came to the front and asked quickly, "Young master, did you get the sky silkworm fruit?" He did not do it. Lin Xian nodded slightly without hiding anything. He stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "The sky silkworm fruit has no owner. Although you guys came here first with your strength, you can't defeat the thunder demon ape, let alone snatch the sky silkworm fruit. So, I didn't snatch the sky silkworm fruit from your hands." Lin Xian had no grudges with these people, which was why he explained. If it were other experts, they would have killed them long ago. "I know that." Chi Siu said, "Young master, the sky silkworm fruit is very important to me, so I'm willing to pay any price to buy it." "Young master, name a price." Cultivation techniques, mystical abilities, resources, as long as you name it, I'll definitely satisfy you. Don't doubt me, I'm a disciple of the Qi family. With the Qi family's wealth, I won't let you down. Oh, the Qi family? Lin Xian was stunned. If he remembered correctly, the force behind the Thousand Herb Hall was the Qi family. He didn't expect to meet the Qi family as soon as he left the Thousand Herb Hall. However, Lin Xian still shook his head slightly. No need, the sky silkworm fruit is also very important to me. So, no matter the price, I won't give it away. He was right. The sky silkworm fruit was a very important spiritual herb for refining the Saint Breakthrough Pill. How could Lin Xian give it away? Hearing this, the surrounding invincible kings were stunned and then became nervous. It seemed that neither side would give in. Would the second miss throw a tantrum at this time? Would she attack directly? If that was the case, they wouldn't be able to defeat the young man in front of them. Therefore, these people were extremely nervous. Qi Xiu was also stunned, and then her eyes dimmed. She didn't expect the other party to directly refuse without any room for negotiation. This made her heart fall into the abyss. Since there was no exchange and she couldn't defeat the other party, then this time, they wouldn't be able to get the sky silkworm fruit. When she thought of the Qi family's patriarch's injury, Qi Xiu felt extremely desperate. You seem to be determined to get the sky silkworm fruit? What's the reason? Lin Xian suddenly said. He didn't want to pay attention to it at first, but he suddenly remembered that the Qi family was an existence even more terrifying than the Thousand Herb Hall. If the Qi family owed him a favor and helped him collect spiritual herbs, then the speed of collection would be greatly increased. Hearing Lin Xian's question, Qi Xiu took a deep breath and quickly explained the matter. Chapter 31-28. We don't know either. It's been 300 years. We've invited countless experts and pill kings to treat him, but they're all helpless. I recently read about the sky silkworm fruit in an ancient book. It might be helpful for the patriarch's injuries, so I brought people to look for it. You're saying that your patriarch went to the fallen abyss 300 years ago? Then he was injured and never recovered, right? Lin Xian asked again. Qi Xiu nodded. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He already had a guess in his heart. The fallen abyss was filled with demonic qi. He must have been injured or poisoned by some demonic creature. In the pill saint's notes, there happened to be a pill that could treat demonic qi or demonic poison. I wonder what benefits I'll get if I can cure your patriarch? Lin Xian asked indifferently. What? Qi Xiu was stunned, then ecstasy appeared on her face. The more than 30 invincible kings were also stunned. They didn't expect things to take such a turn. Can you really cure our patriarch? Qi Xiu's voice was trembling. Lin Xian said indifferently. Don't be too happy. According to your description, I only have a 50% chance. 50%. That was already a lot. As long as you can cure our patriarch, no matter what you want, my Qi family will definitely satisfy you. Is that so? What I want is very precious. Your Qi family might not be able to give it to me. Don't worry, young master. As long as you can cure our patriarch, our Qi family will give you our lives. Qi Xiu clenched her fists. She had even decided to sacrifice herself. Even if the other party wanted her, she would agree. However, Lin Xian didn't have such thoughts. He narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the injured patriarch was very important to the Qi family. Since that was the case, it would be easy. He needed more than 1,300 spiritual herbs to refine the Saint Breakthrough Pill. He already had 300 of them. He handed the rest to the Thousand Herb Hall, Wangong, Haiyu, and the other families to collect. However, he knew that the Thousand Herb Hall, Wangong, Haiyu, and the other families could only collect a portion at most. Among them, the sky silkworm fruit was extremely precious and rare. Those forces couldn't collect it at all. Perhaps only the Qi family could do it. Alright, take me there then. I need to take a look at the Qi family's old ancestor's illness before I can make a conclusion. Young master, please. Qi Xiu was very happy and quickly led the way. The 30 or so invincible kings also let out sighs of relief. Great, there was no need to fight. After all, they knew that the young man before them was a lot more terrifying than the lightning demonic ape. The group of people left the dark swamp and flew towards the distance. A few days later they arrived at a spirit mountain. The old ancestor had specially chosen a place to heal himself. The scenery here wasn't bad. Qi Xiu explained. Lin Xian looked around and nodded slightly. He could tell that this was not the Qi family's headquarters. But it didn't matter to him. Seeing that Lin Xian didn't say anything, Qi Xiu didn't mind. Along the way she had already figured out Lin Xian's temper. The mysterious young man before him didn't like to talk much. Therefore, Chi Siu hurriedly took out a small flag and waved it lightly. Immediately, the clouds below rolled and formed a path. "Young master, please." Chi Siu led the way again. Lin Xian and the others followed behind. There were also many figures moving below. The second miss had returned. Exclamations could be heard. The second miss must have brought back the sky silkworm fruit. Our old ancestor can be saved. The Chi family warriors below were very excited. "Sister, did you bring the sky silkworm fruit?" A few young men also ran over with shining eyes. Chi Siu shook her head slightly. "I didn't bring the sky silkworm fruit, but I found a way to cure the old ancestor." Chi Siu turned around and said respectfully, "Young master, it's already late today. Why don't you rest here for the night? I'll bring you to see the old ancestor the next day." That was good too. Lin Xian nodded slightly. Next, Chi Siu personally led Lin Xian to stay in the Spirit Mountain. At night, in another hall of the Spirit Mountain, Chi Siu and many Chi family warriors gathered together. Although this was only the place where the old ancestor rested, there were many guards and experts here, far more than the 1,000-herb hall. One could imagine how terrifying the Chi family was. "Sister, you didn't bring the sky silkworm fruit? The sky silkworm fruit is in that kid's hands? You said he can save the old ancestor?" As Chi Siu recounted what had happened, exclamations could be heard. They found it hard to believe. What right did a young man have to say such big words? One had to know that in the past 300 years, the Chi family had found many experts, but none of them could save the old ancestor. Every single one of those experts was a powerhouse who could suppress a region, or a world-renowned alchemy king. However, they were helpless. What right did a very young kid have? Even the older experts' eyes flickered. At this moment, a young man stood up and said, "Sister, I think that kid is just spouting nonsense. He wants to take advantage of the Chi family. Why don't we just attack and kill him? Take the sky silkworm fruit from him." As soon as he said that, the eyes of the Chi family elders shone with a piercing cold light. However, Chi Siu suddenly stood up and shook her head frantically. "No." In addition to her, more than 30 invincible kings also stood up and hurriedly said, "No, we can't attack. That kid is very powerful." They immediately recounted how Lin Xian had killed the demonic thunder ape with one finger. Instantly the entire hall fell silent. Even the few young men who had suggested to attack were so scared that they shrunk their necks. Some of them even had their legs trembling. According to Chi Siu, more than 30 invincible kings formed a powerful killing formation, but they could not do anything to the demonic thunder ape. Instead, they were killed in one move. The gap between them was simply too great. Could it be that this kid was some earth-shattering big shot? Many people were puzzled. Right at that moment, several people of the older generation looked to Chi Siu. "Second miss, what do you plan to do?" Chi Siu took a deep breath and said, "Don't provoke young Master Lin. All of you serve me well. Whoever dares to provoke him, don't blame me for being rude." Although Chi Siu was only the second miss, her status was much more honorable. As soon as she said that, the martial artists in the hall did not dare to act presumptuously anymore. The next day, Chi Siu waited outside Lin Xian's door early in the morning. She did not rush him. Instead, she waited quietly like this. Behind her, there were still some other martial artists following. Some were young and some were elders. These people were very shocked. They had never seen the second miss wait so respectfully for someone. Chapter 31-29. Especially those young warriors. Although they had heard that Lin Xian was very powerful, they had not seen it with their own eyes. Therefore they did not believe it. At this moment they looked a little dissatisfied. However, with Chi Siu here they did not dare to be presumptuous. They knew very well how powerful their second sister was. The group of people waited just like that. After about 2 hours, the door in front of them slowly opened. Lin Xian walked out in his red robe. "Mr. Lin, you're awake." A smile appeared on Chi Siu's face instantly. The older generation and the younger martialists behind her couldn't stop looking at Lin Xian. Those older generation figures were very surprised that they could not see through Lin Xian's strength. This shocked them. As for those young warriors, they curled their lips and looked disdainful. What's the big deal? They did not feel any terrifying aura from him. Lin Xian did not care about these people's gazes at all. How could these people understand his realm? He looked at Chi Siu and said indifferently, "All right, take me to see your ancestor." "Mr. Lin, this way please." Chi Siu led the way in front. After walking for a while, Chi Siu stopped. There was a lake in front of them. Beside it was a small bamboo house. There were spiritual herbs, spiritual flowers, and spiritual bamboo planted in it. It was a peaceful and quiet scene. It was completely different from the golden and dazzling outside. The ancestor is inside, Qisiyu said. Then she asked the people behind her to wait. Only she and Lin Xian walked in. In front of the lake there was an old man with white hair. He was holding a fishing rod in his hand and seemed to be fishing. He looked like an ordinary old man from a farmer's house. He did not look like the ancestor of a big family at all. When Lin Xian saw him, a golden light appeared in his eyes. Like him, the old man did not emit any terrifying aura. This old man was at least a half-saint. He could sense an astonishing power from the other party. That power was even more powerful than the power of Tao. However, it was different from the power of a saint that he felt. Therefore he guessed that he should be a half-saint. A half-saint was already a terrifying existence. After all, a saint was an existence that transcended heaven and earth. There weren't many of them. Moreover, most of them chose to cultivate in seclusion to break through to a higher realm. It could be said that there were very few walking saints. Most of them were used as a foundation to suppress others. Just like the dark turmoil that Lin Xian had experienced previously, countless saints had attacked, and even super saints had descended. Such a scene could be said to be hard to come by in millions of years. A half-saint was already a terrifying existence. Hearing the sound of footsteps, the old man in front turned his head. "So you are here." However, when he saw an unfamiliar young man standing beside Qisiyu, he was slightly taken aback. "Is this the young Master Lin you were talking about?" He naturally knew that Qisiyu had found a young man to treat his illness. However, he hadn't expected this young man to be so young. In his opinion, the other party should be at least a few hundred years old, but he didn't expect that to be the case. The other party was truly very young, so young that he found it hard to believe. Did such a person really have the ability to cure him? He was very suspicious. However, in the next moment, the old man's pupils abruptly shrank, revealing a trace of shock. "Old man, if I am not wrong, you should have been injured by the Yin demon." After hearing this, the old man's expression changed instantly, and his robes fluttered without any wind. A terrifying aura surged out as if a peerless beast had awakened. The other party could tell at a glance. How could he not be shocked? One should know that even Qisiyu didn't know about this matter. As expected, Qisiyu's face was blank. However, when she saw the expression of her family's patriarch, she knew that she had found the right person. "Young Master Lin, please. I hope you can forgive me for not being a good host." The Qi family's patriarch waved his hand, and instantly, a table made of 3,000-year-old Suzuki wood flew out from his storage ring. On top of it were 2 teacups and a pot of tea. The teacups and pot were made of a special type of divine crystal. They were crystal clear and carried a strong power. "This is 7,000-year-old spiritual tea. Young Master Lin, have a taste." As he spoke, the Qi family's patriarch personally poured a cup of spiritual tea for Lin Xian. Qisiyu stood respectfully at the side. Lin Xian sat down casually, took a sip and nodded slightly. Not bad, it was indeed a good tea. There were many types of spiritual tea, especially the precious ones. A 7,000-year-old spiritual tea was very rare. "Young Master Lin, you flatter me. This is nothing compared to those top spiritual teas. It can't even compare to the legendary Enlightenment tea." Enlightenment tea. Lin Xian was shocked when he heard this. He knew that this was an extremely precious spiritual tea. Ordinary people couldn't taste it at all. Not to mention them, even saints couldn't taste it at all. Because it was said that only emperors could enjoy it. It was said that there was an enlightenment tea in the true spirit world. However, it was in a forbidden zone that even saints didn't dare to enter. Perhaps only a true great emperor would be able to enter the forbidden zone and obtain the Tao comprehending tea. After drinking a cup of spiritual tea, the Qi family's patriarch asked in a low voice, "Young Master Lin, how did you know that I was injured by the Yin demon?" This was something that even Siyu didn't know about. Lin Xian smiled faintly. "I heard from Siyu that you were injured because you fell into the abyss." The demonic Qi inside was extremely terrifying, and with the old man's skills, it was definitely not an ordinary place. Although you looked normal on the surface, there was a black demonic rune flickering in your body. After thinking about it, I guessed that you were injured by the Yin demon. This thing was extremely terrifying. It was formed after tens of thousands of years. Even a half-saint or saint might not be able to remove it. That was why the Qi family's patriarch had been tortured for the past 300 years, to the point of despair. "To be honest, if you can't cure me, I'm afraid I can only live for another 10 years. That was true. Lin Xian could feel that the blood in the old man's body had dried up. He could only live for another 10 years or so. However, he only smiled confidently. No worries. If it was other things, I wouldn't be so confident. But this is the Yin demon? I'm 100% confident that I can cure you. Hearing this, the Qi family's patriarch's hand trembled, spilling the spiritual tea. Qi Siu's mouth was wide open in disbelief. The Qi family's patriarch was a half-saint who had lived for more than 2,000 years. What hadn't he seen before? But now his hand was trembling. One could imagine how shocked he was. Chapter 31:30. Lin Xian smiled. Of course it's true. As long as you refine a pill, your Yin demon will disappear. Pill? What pill? Could it be that you're an alchemist? The Qi family patriarch was shocked. Lin Xian nodded. That's right, I'm an alchemist. However, this medicinal pill is incomparably precious. Thus, the Qi clan will have to prepare the ingredients for the concoction. No problem. Although the Qi family isn't the most powerful family, it's still a big family. We can still take out the spiritual herbs. The Qi family patriarch was very confident. Lin Xian took out a jade slip and used his soul to engrave the information of the spiritual herbs on it. The Qi family patriarch took it and his face changed. What's wrong, patriarch? Qi Siu, who was standing by the side, was also very puzzled. She also used her soul to enter the jade slip. In the next moment she exclaimed because she realized that the spiritual herbs in the jade slip were too precious. Especially the most important one, the red sun ebony. It was a kind of tree that was rumored to be the tree where the golden crow stayed. The golden crow was a mythical beast in the legends, along with the qilin and the phoenix. It was too difficult to find such a thing. Other than the red sun ebony, the other spiritual herbs were also very precious. No wonder Lin Xian said to let the Qi family prepare it themselves. Because even Lin Xian couldn't take out such a thing, the Qi family could only rely on themselves. Why is it difficult? Lin Xian asked. The Qi family patriarch took a deep breath and clenched his fist. No, the Qi family can still find it. One had to know that with his half-sage cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for him to live for another 1 or 2,000 years. If he couldn't cure his illness, he could only live for another 10 years. The difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. Therefore, not to mention the red sun ebony, even if it was a legendary spiritual herb, he would do whatever it took to find it. Lin Xian nodded and continued. Other than the red sun ebony, it's best to prepare 3 sets of the other spiritual herbs. Because this is the first time I'm refining it. The Qi family patriarch understood this point. No matter how powerful an alchemist was, there was still a chance of failure. Therefore, most alchemists would prepare a few more sets of spiritual herbs. Lin Xian did the same. He had also collected 3 portions of the breakthrough sage elixir. Although it was 3 sets, if other alchemists were to know about it, they would be shocked. Because the higher the grade of the pill saint alchemist. The success rate was 1% or even 1,000th of the saint pill. In other words, one might not even 1,000 pills. The fact that Lin Xian had collected 3 sets meant that he was confident that he could increase the success rate to 1/3. Is the heaven defying the heavens? The pill that Lin Xian was going to refine was called the Red Sun Golden Crow pill. It was a type of pill recorded in the pill saint's notes. According to the records in the notebook, there was someone who was injured by this kind of Yin demon. Moreover, that person was a saint, which was even more terrifying than a half-saint. In the end, he consumed the Crimson Sun Golden Crow pill and successfully healed his injuries, eliminating the Yin demon. Therefore, Lin Xian was very confident. Even the injuries of saints were healed, let alone those of half-saints. After that, Lin Xian left. Although the Qi family was large, it would take a long time for them to collect all these pills. Lin Xian could not wait any longer. He wanted to go to other places to collect the spiritual herbs for the Saint Breakthrough pill. Before leaving, Qi Siu gave him a voice-transmitting jade pendant. He could contact her at any time. She asked, "Where have you been recently, young Master Lin? You won't go far in the next few months. By the way, I heard there will be a grand event in Tianfang Pavilion in a few months." Tianfang Pavilion? Qi Siu said with a smile after hearing that. "Young Master, do you have an invitation?" Lin Xian was stunned. Did he need an invitation? Indeed. Tianfang Pavilion was a grand event organized by a top family. Therefore, without an invitation, ordinary martial artists could not enter. So there was such a thing. Lin Xian was surprised. He had only heard about it from the woman in the black dress. He did not expect there to be a requirement to enter. Qi Siu smiled. "Don't worry, the Qi family is behind Tianfang Pavilion. You can just say my name and enter. Is that so? That's much more convenient. Lin Xian nodded. It seemed that the Qi family was very powerful on this mainland. After that, Lin Xian left. Qi Xiu also hurried back to the Qi family. She wanted to use all her power to collect the spiritual herbs needed for alchemy. The matter of the 1,000-herb hall and the Qi family caused a small stir in the entire cloud-returning planet. However, a few days later, an even bigger tsunami swept through the entire cloud-returning planet. The Nether King of the Sirius Star came to the cloud-returning planet and challenged the top geniuses of the various sects and families. He swept in all directions. Even the top geniuses of the cloud-returning planet were no match for him. They could not even block a single move. In an instant, everyone was in a panic. The elders and sect leaders of the large sects and families were also shocked. They were finally here. The top geniuses of the ancient Road of Stars had finally arrived. They knew that there were already some geniuses of the ancient Road of Stars who had come before the Nether King. However, these people were secretly challenging, cultivating, or visiting. Very few people were so powerful that they could directly go against the entire stellar realm. The Nether King, right? What's there to be arrogant about? I'll fight. Soon someone walked out. He was also a genius who had the right to step onto the ancient Road of Stars, but he had not gone yet. I didn't expect to meet someone like you before I leave. I'll kill you and then step onto the ancient Road of Stars. At this moment, a genius of the cloud-returning planet spoke. Instantly, the warriors of the cloud-returning planet went crazy with excitement. Gao Peng, it was actually him. Wasn't he already prepared to leave the cloud-returning planet and step onto the ancient Road of Stars? It seemed that he had not left yet. Perhaps his battle with the Nether King would be his last battle on the cloud-returning planet. Haha, that Nether King was definitely dead. Gao Peng was an extremely terrifying existence. That was for sure. There were many geniuses on the cloud-returning planet. How could the Nether King provoke us? Just wait, that Nether King was definitely dead. In an instant, the people of the cloud-returning planet were extremely excited. Indeed, they really needed a genius to step forward. Because after the Nether King arrived, he had swept in all directions, causing the young geniuses of the cloud-returning planet to tremble. They were almost in despair. Fortunately, Gao Peng was here. 3 days later, the battle at Tianqiong Peak. This news swept through the entire cloud-returning planet like a hurricane. In an instant, countless experts rushed to Tianqiong Peak excitedly. Tianqiong Peak was an extremely tall mountain peak that pierced into the clouds. It led to the Heavenly Palace. At this moment, the surroundings of Tianqiong Peak were packed with people. They were like dark clouds. Chapter 31-31. This was a very young man. He was tall and straight, had a handsome face, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were like the stars in the 9 heavens, flickering with incomparable light. He was clad in pitch-black armor and held a black battle spear in his hand. There were blood-colored patterns on the spear, forming a mysterious pattern. With a light wave, it cut through the void. It was as if this spear had killed countless experts. He was the Nether King. He was the young genius who had been in the limelight recently. He came from outside the realm and had arrived in a domineering manner. It was rumored that the geniuses of the sacred grounds and top families could not even block a single move from him. Everyone knew that this was a true dragon, a genius who came from the ancient path of stars. Fortunately, they were not worried now because Gao Peng was about to make a move. Gao Peng was also very famous on cloud-returning planet. It could even be said that the mention of his name could make people tremble in fear. On Heaven's Vault Peak, the Nether King looked around and frowned slightly. Is he not here yet? Could it be that he doesn't dare to come? His voice reverberated in all directions. Instantly, the hearts of the surrounding cultivators pounded wildly. What a terrifying aura. Just this voice alone made their aura churn as if they were about to explode. Damn it, don't be arrogant. How could Gao Peng not dare to come? That's right, just wait. Gao Peng is here and you will definitely lose. Noisy. The Nether King's cold wind blew and immediately, the few people who spoke kept retreating and vomiting blood. It was too terrifying. Just a glance from the other party had seriously injured them. For a moment, the surroundings were terrifyingly silent. No one dared to be in the limelight. Among the crowd, a red-robed youth stood in the void, looking forward with flickering eyes. Was this the Nether King? He was very strong. The aura he was displaying now was not weaker than Huangfu Badian. However, he did not know if the other party had comprehended a power that was close to the Tao. If he did not, then he was not his match at all. If he had comprehended it, he would not be afraid. For example, Jun Wuya, Han Fei, and Yu Linglong had all comprehended this power in the extraordinary warrior residence, but they were still not his match. Even the North Demon had lost to him. In addition, he had comprehended the sage's former residence and the Cliff of Enlightenment some time ago, so his strength had become much stronger than before. I wonder if this Nether King can pique my interest? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Boom, boom. A thunderous voice came from afar. A figure with boundless chi waves tore through the void and rushed over. Here it comes. Everyone was shocked and raised their heads to look. Lin Xian also squinted his eyes to watch. A silhouette flew over from afar and arrived near Tianxiong Feng in an instant. His aura was extremely powerful, suppressing the surroundings. It wasn't Gao Peng. However, after seeing the figure, many people exclaimed. They realized that the person who came was not Gao Peng. The Fire Crow King, it was actually him. Everyone exclaimed again. He and Gao Peng were good friends. Although the Fire Crow King's strength was inferior to Gao Peng's, it wasn't too far off either. Gao Peng didn't come, but the Fire Crow King did. Are you Gao Peng? In front of him, the Nether King's eyes emitted a cold light. In the void, the man covered in flame runes snorted coldly. I'm not Brother Gao Peng, I'm the Fire Crow King. Brother Gao Peng is on his way here. I'll play with you first. After saying that, he let out a long howl, and a pair of flame wings appeared on his back, covering the sky and earth. The powerful chi waves made everyone retreat frantically. The entire sky was enveloped by an endless sea of fire. Isn't it Gao Peng? The Nether King frowned, but when he felt the other party's aura, he smiled. Good, the aura is not bad. It's worth my time. Come. The war spear in his hand turned into a pitch-black light that shattered the void. Let me see what ability you have to be arrogant on Cloud Returning Planet. The Fire Crow King roared angrily, and his aura rose again. Too terrifying. Retreat quickly. Everyone retreated tens of thousands of miles away. They felt that it wasn't enough, so they retreated hundreds of thousands of miles away. Then they heaved a sigh of relief. This distance was a little far, but it wasn't a problem for these King Realm experts. They could see everything clearly. Even the weaker ones could only observe through the array. In short, everyone was paying attention. The Fire Crow King let out a long howl, and the two pairs of wings on his back turned into flaming heavenly blades that slashed over. A mere ant dares to be arrogant in front of me? The Nether King sneered. He didn't make a move at all. In front of him, endless black energy spread out, forming a black barrier with a terrifying aura surging on it. Clang. The two flaming wings that were thousands of miles long slashed on the black barrier, emitting a thunderous sound. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Countless large cracks and storms swept in all directions. However, what shocked everyone was that the black barrier didn't shatter at all. There wasn't even a crack. What? The Fire Crow King was stunned, his expression filled with disbelief. How could the other party be so powerful? On the other side, the Nether King revealed a cold smile. Is this your strength? You're really trash. Speaking up to here, his finger moved slightly. Instantly, endless runes spread out on the black barrier, turning into a black long sword that slashed forward. Boom. Blood splattered, and the two pairs of flaming wings were cut off. Endless feathers and blood scattered in all directions. The people who were watching the battle from afar were all stunned. Many people were so frightened that they knelt on the ground, trembling. The Fire Crow King was injured. In just one move, the Fire Crow King's wings were cut off. This made them feel that it was inconceivable. Many people were even filled with despair. They knew that the Fire Crow King was also a prodigy who was qualified to step onto the ancient path of the starry sky. However, in front of the other party, he was as weak as an ant. Buzz. The black demonic sword once again entered the black barrier, disappearing along with the barrier. From the beginning to the end, the Nether King stood on Tianxiong Peak without moving, like a peerless demon king. What Fire Crow King? He couldn't even withstand a single blow. If Gao Feng was also this powerful, then there was no need for him to come. This kind of trash isn't worthy of fighting with me. The Nether King snorted coldly. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, everyone trembled. Those people of the older generation also had sighs on their faces. This Nether King was too terrifying. He was definitely a prodigy of the current generation. Such a terrifying Fire Crow King was actually heavily injured in one move. Why do I feel that Gao Peng is also dangerous? Impossible, Gao Peng is much stronger than the Fire Crow King. Yes, that's right. I heard that Gao Peng recently had a breakthrough. He will definitely be able to defeat the Nether King. Everyone cheered themselves on. Lin Xian stood in the void, his eyes flickering. This was a little interesting. He was becoming more and more interested in this Nether King. However, now wasn't the time for him to make a move. Chapter 31-32. After a while, many kings suddenly exclaimed. Someone was coming. What a terrifying aura. Many people raised their heads to look. The next moment they began to tremble. Countless people were pressed to the ground, unable to move. Some powerhouses also raised their heads in horror. Gao Peng was here. Heavens, his aura was even more terrifying than before. Some people who had seen Gao Peng before were terrified. Was he here? On Tianxiong Peak, the Nether King also raised his head, drawing two black rays of light that pierced through the void. A tall figure descended from the sky. Gao Peng was here. Countless people screamed. They felt that they saw hope. Brother Gao Peng, you're here. Beside him, a slightly weak voice said. Gao Peng turned his head and saw that the Fire Crow King was covered in blood. The wings on his back had dimmed, and he immediately frowned. You're injured? He turned his head and the killing intent on his body spread out like the wind. Boom. The void within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles instantly shattered. Retreat. Retreat again. Retreat 1,000,000 miles away. Countless people screamed in horror. They retreated 1,000,000 miles away as if they had gone mad. There was nothing they could do. The void where they were originally standing had shattered, forming countless black holes. You're the Nether King? In front, Gao Peng frowned. Gao Peng was a tall and handsome man. His body was like a dragon, full of strength. What a terrifying physique. Many people exclaimed. Yes, Gao Peng was the top genius of the Tiangang sect. His Tiangang body was absolutely terrifying. No one in the Invincible King realm could compare to his physique. Lin Xian heard the discussion around him and frowned. Tiangang sect? If he remembered correctly, the arrogant Wan Gong from before seemed to be a disciple of the Tiangang sect. A golden light appeared in his eyes as he looked forward and nodded slightly. Indeed, he saw that although Gao Peng's body was very different from Wan Gang's, their auras were extremely similar. Thinking about it, they should have cultivated the same body refining technique. It should be the heavenly tough body that these people were talking about. Heavenly tough body? That was interesting. Lin Xian was looking forward to it. In front, the Nether King also spoke. You're Gao Peng? Yes, I am. Gao Peng's voice was like thunder, echoing in all directions. You injured countless paragons of my cloud return planet. Truly arrogant to the extreme. Do you really think that no one in the younger generation of my cloud returning planet can control you? Today I will let you know how powerful I am. He stomped his foot and instantly the space beneath him shattered. His powerful physique made everyone scream. When the Fire Crow King saw this scene, it spread its wings and flew into the distance. He knew that Gao Peng was angry. Gao Peng's anger was absolutely terrifying. That Nether King will regret it. Two beams of black light shot out from the Nether King's eyes. They were like two sharp swords slicing through the void. Even the Invincible Kings who were 1,000,000 miles away were trembling in fear. It was too terrifying. Just a glance was enough to penetrate them. However, Gao Peng didn't dodge at all. He laughed loudly and mysterious runes appeared on his body. He was like a supreme overlord standing in the void. With a clang, the two beams of black light collided with his body, causing a thunderous vibration. The surrounding void quickly shattered, but Gao Peng's body was unharmed. In fact, it became even more resplendent. It's useless. My Big Dipper body is unparalleled. Your attack definitely won't be able to break it. Gao Peng was very confident. Interesting. The Nether King also revealed a trace of surprise. Big Dipper body? You are too ignorant. There are many famous physiques on the Starry Sky Ancient Path. For example, the Sacred Physique, the Tao Physique, the Battle Physique, and the Spirit Physique. I have never heard of a Big Dipper body? If you were a Sacred Physique, I might be a little afraid. But you are just a Big Dipper body. How dare you be arrogant in front of me? You really don't know death. You are courting death. Gao Peng roared angrily. With a roar, he charged forward. Everywhere he passed, everything was shattered. Nothing could stop his footsteps. He naturally knew how powerful the Sacred Physique that the other party spoke of was. That was a physique that was extremely famous in all the worlds in the universe. However, that physique was innate. He didn't have that kind of bloodline physique. But he was incomparably confident in himself. His Big Dipper body was cultivated step by step. During this process he had experienced endless life and death situations. He had used the blood of countless monster kings to temper his body since he was young. Now, he was confident that his physique was definitely not inferior to a sacred physique. Combat physique. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. The Nether King's lips curled into a cold smile. He took a step forward and similarly charged forward. With a bang, the two collided. It was like a raging wave hitting the shore, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. Countless rays of light shrouded the entire sky, emitting a rumbling sound. Boom, boom, boom. Both of them didn't use any magical powers or weapons. Just like that, their fists and palms collided, resisting with pure physical strength. Millions of miles away, the kings and older generation figures watched with trepidation. Many people began to tremble. Heavens, these two are too terrifying. Their pure physical strength can kill a group of invincible kings. Yes, an old man smiled bitterly. I'm afraid I can't even block a punch from them. He was also a famous invincible king, but he realized that in front of these two young men, he couldn't resist at all. The other young geniuses were even more shocked. The two of them were really like peerless savage beasts. How could their physiques be so strong? Just wait and see. The Nether King will definitely suffer. That's right, Gao Peng's eldest senior brother is so powerful. How could that guy resist? Those who spoke were the geniuses of the Big Dipper sect. They had arrogant faces. In the crowd of spectators, Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He didn't think so. This Nether King was not ordinary. Now that he was also fighting Gao Peng with his physique, it meant that the Nether King's physique was very strong. It wasn't inferior to the Big Dipper body at all. As expected, other experts also noticed this. Look, the Nether King is actually fighting Gao Peng with his physique. That's impossible. The people of the Big Dipper sect screamed. They couldn't believe it. However, the truth was happening in front of them. For a moment, the geniuses of the Big Dipper sect were stunned. Gao Peng was also very surprised. How was this possible? Endless waves were set off in his heart. Indeed, the two of them had already exchanged blows, and it was a contest of pure physical strength. If it was another invincible king, Gao Peng was confident that he could kill him with a punch. But now the other party was actually not at a disadvantage. Even now his arm was faintly numb. How could the other party's physique be so strong? Why, are you surprised? The Nether King sneered. Do you think your Big Dipper body is very strong? In front of me it's just SOSO. Chapter 31-33. My treasure body isn't something your heavenly steel body can compare to. Speaking of this, the Nether King's eyes burst out with a cold light. In the next moment, endless runes erupted on his fist. Bang! The power of this punch was extremely terrifying, and it directly blasted Gao Peng back. Gao Peng retreated tens of thousands of miles, and the blood in his body was boiling. Not good. Gao Peng was blasted back. What? This is impossible. Damn it, with Gao Peng's physique and strength, he was actually suppressed. Those people in the distance were all stunned. The Fire Crow King was the same. He knew how powerful Gao Peng was. However, he didn't expect Gao Peng to be at a disadvantage in terms of physique and strength. I've seen your physique and it's only SOSO. Do you have any other supernatural powers? If not, then you can die. The Nether King's voice was cold. Don't be arrogant. Just now it was just a probing attack and I didn't use my full strength. Gao Peng suppressed the blood in his body, and the battle intent in his eyes became deeper and deeper. With a loud shout, the endless runes on his body quickly erupted, causing him to shine like a god of war. Boom boom boom. The surrounding space trembled again, and countless people knelt on the ground with a bang. Gao Peng's physique became stronger again. Many people screamed. Haha, I knew it, senior brother Gao Peng didn't use his full strength just now, and this is the true power of the heavenly steel body. You're very strong and your physique is also beyond my expectations. But now I'll let you see the true heavenly steel body. At this moment, Gao Peng was like a sharp sword unsheathed, incomparably powerful. Buzz. The void shattered and Gao Peng used his extreme speed to charge forward. In an instant he was in front of the Nether King. This speed frightened everyone and they couldn't catch it at all. Die for me. The terrifying fist carried runes that filled the sky as it blasted towards the Nether King's head. The speed wasn't bad and the strength was enough, but it was still not enough. The Nether King didn't dodge at all, and his eyes were filled with disdain. In the next moment, the mysterious black barrier appeared in front of him again. Boom. This fist blasted on the black barrier and a shocking tremor sounded. The black barrier rolled like waves but it didn't break. What? It blocked it? Gao Peng was Kongmeng. What was this thing? He was actually able to block his attack. One had to know that he wasn't holding back at all. However, in the next moment his hair stood on end and he quickly dodged. Just as he left the place where he had been standing, he was pierced by a sharp black sword. There was blood dripping from the black lioha. It was as if it had rushed out from the abyss of hell. After the attack missed, the black demonic sword changed direction in the air and attacked Gao Peng again. Throughout the entire process, the Nether King did not move at all. "Damn it, how dare you look down on me?" Gao Peng was furious. Heaven and earth-shattering fist. His eyes shone with a cold light as he unleashed a peerless fist technique and attacked. With a boom, the black demonic sword was sent flying. At the same time, he arrived in front of the black barrier again and shattered it with 3 punches. "This is great." Gao Peng was overjoyed that he had finally broken through his opponent's barrier. Next, he would break his opponent's body. Thinking of this, Gao Peng let out a long roar, and the light on his body became even brighter. His fist was like an ancient mountain as it blasted forward. "Umph." The Nether King scoffed coldly. Interesting, but it was still not enough. The black halberd in his hand vibrated gently. Boundless killing intent swept in all directions, and all the living beings within 1,000,000 miles of the sky trembled. It turned into a black light in the air and slashed forward. With a boom, it collided with Gao Peng's body. Boom, boom, boom. A dazzling light burst out and the world was covered in white. Nothing could be seen. Poof. Boom, boom, boom. How was the battle situation? Everyone waited anxiously. Suddenly they saw a figure flying out and crashing into the light that filled the sky. Blood dyed the sky red. It was Gao Peng. Gao Peng was actually injured. Many people exclaimed, and the people of the Tiangang sect fainted from fright. How was this possible? The top genius of the Tiangang sect was actually injured. That was Gao Peng. His physique was strong and his strength was terrifying. He was famous among the younger generation of the entire cloud returning planet. In fact, countless older generation figures felt that they were inferior to him. But now, such a genius had been so easily injured by the other party? The Fire Crow King's pupils constricted, and he was so scared that his body turned cold. Previously, the Nether King had injured him without making a move. Now that he saw the other party use a weapon, he was scared out of his wits. If he faced this attack, he would probably be split in half in an instant, right? How was this possible? Gao Peng looked at the crack on his hand that spread all the way to his arm. He frowned and his eyes were filled with shock. His Tiangang body had actually been broken. What exactly was the black weapon in the other party's hand? The others also noticed this and instantly, countless people began to discuss. That weapon was too terrifying. It was definitely a half-saint artifact and not an ordinary one. This guy cheated and he didn't use his own strength. Countless people screamed. However, the top experts shook their heads. Cheating? That might not be the case. The weapon itself was a part of one's strength. If possible, Gao Peng could use any weapon. This did not restrict him. In front, the Nether King withdrew the black halberd in his hand, and his eyes were filled with disdain. "You can't even block one of my attacks. You're too useless. I actually waited several days for a piece of trash like you. How despicable." To be honest, he originally had some confidence in Gao Peng because the entire cloud returning planet was filled with legends about him. But now he was full of disappointment. The other party couldn't even block one of his attacks. What right did such a person have to make him use his true strength? Despicable. "Don't look down on me." Gao Peng snorted coldly. The light runes on his body circulated and healed the wound. In the next moment he stood up again. "I originally had some trump cards that I wanted to use when I ascended the ancient path of the stars, but I didn't expect to meet you now. Since that's the case, fine. I'll let you know my true strength." Speaking of this, Gao Peng's eyes were filled with excitement. This power was also something that he had recently mastered. With this power, his strength would undergo an earth-shaking change. He believed that once this power was used, not many people would be his match. Unless they had truly stepped into that realm. Otherwise, he could laugh at the 9 heavens among the invincible kings. Gao Peng hadn't used his full strength? Hearing this, those people were also stunned. That shouldn't be. Gao Peng's heavenly tough body had already been used to the extreme? Could it be that this guy had some fortuitous encounter recently and obtained a new trump card? Everyone was shocked. Those from the Tiangang sect were even more nervous. "Senior brother Gao Peng, you must not lose." Chapter 31-34. He no longer had any illusions about the other party, so even if he heard that the other party had a trump card, he didn't care at all. You will pay the price for your ignorance and carelessness," Gao Peng shouted coldly. A sharp light burst out from his eyes. A terrifying aura appeared on his body. Those runes rotated quickly and then changed. Between heaven and earth, there was a mysterious aura spreading. What kind of power was this? Everyone's hearts were beating wildly as if they were being torn apart. Gao Peng, who was in front, was still the same, not moving. However, they seemed to find that Gao Peng was like a god, high and mighty, looking down at them. What was going on? The young prodigies were all stunned. They had never felt this way before. Those older generation figures were also breathing rapidly, and many of their faces were flushed red. Suddenly, someone screamed. Could it be that kind of power? Gao Peng had actually comprehended that kind of power. As soon as these words came out, the young warriors were at a loss, while those older generation figures were all injected with chicken blood. Was it really that kind of power? Gao Peng would definitely win. They didn't expect Gao Peng to be so amazing. At this age, he had comprehended that kind of power. He was definitely a heaven-defying monster. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes as he sensed the power. A smile appeared on his face. He was no stranger to this power, because this was a power that was close to Dao. Originally, he also thought that this battle was over. He didn't expect Gao Peng to have comprehended this kind of power. However, looking at the other party's power that was close to Dao, it wasn't very stable. He should have just obtained it not long ago. The young geniuses around him asked one after another. When they learned that this was a power that was close to Dao, they were all stunned. The next moment they screamed. The power that was close to Dao, this was the comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth. Gao Peng had already reached that step? Countless people were shocked and envious. This was the first step to becoming a sage, and many older generation experts were stuck at this step, unable to break through. They didn't expect Gao Peng to do it at such a young age. Great, senior brother Gao Peng is definitely an invincible existence. Yes, that Lord Ming is dead for sure. Haha, once the power that was close to Dao is released, even if that person has a peerless weapon in his hand, he can't block it. That's right, Gao Peng had indeed comprehended a power that was close to the way, and what he had comprehended was the way of strength. At this moment, his body became stronger again. It had already surpassed the invincible king level, reaching an inconceivable height. With a light wave of his arm, the heavens fell and the earth cracked. He once again unleashed his peerless fist technique and charged over. The corners of the Nether King's mouth curled up into a cold smile. A power that was close to the Tao? The black spear in his hand descended from the sky like a river of the underworld. It was precisely such a blow that had injured Gao Peng. Thus, when they saw him again, everyone became nervous. However, they had confidence in Gao Peng. Sure enough, with a dang sound, a world-shaking sound rang out. The black war spear was beaten back. Gao Peng's body shone brightly. Not injured? This is great. The power that was close to the Tao caused Gao Peng's strength to undergo an earth-shaking change. He could definitely defeat the Nether King. At this moment, the cloud-gathering planet's warriors were filled with confidence. It was useless. In front of this power, all methods and abilities had to bow their heads. Gao Peng was extremely confident. He waved his fist again, ruthlessly slamming it into the Nether King's body. With a boom, the Nether King was beaten into pieces, turning into countless black fog that spread out in all directions. Success. The corners of Gao Peng's mouth curled up into a smile. The people watching the battle from afar were stunned at first, then let out earth-shattering cheers. Gao Peng won. Ah, what Nether King? Wasn't he still shattered by eldest senior brother Gao Peng with one punch? No matter how arrogant this kid is, so what if he ascended the ancient path of the stars? Didn't he still die on my cloud-gathering planet? At this moment, the cloud-gathering planet's warriors were excited and crazy. They were really too excited. Although the Nether King had only been here for a few days, he had swept away the vast majority of the prodigies, suppressing them until they could not raise their heads. Now that the other party was killed by Gao Peng on the spot, how could they not be happy? Did he win? The Fire Crow King watched the battle from afar. Feeling this power, his body trembled. Too terrifying. He knew how terrifying the Nether King was. A light blow could seriously injure him. However, in front of the power that was close to the Tao, he could not resist at all. Brother Gao Peng really makes people envious. Indeed, the power that was close to the Tao was what countless people yearned for. Everyone thought that Gao Peng had won except for one person, and that was Lin Xian. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. This Nether King should not be killed so easily. His eyes flashed. Suddenly he was stunned. The corners of his mouth curled up in a smile. I knew it. This Nether King indeed has a trump card. Gao Peng should lose. He shook his head slightly. When these words came out, the surrounding people looked at him as if looking at a fool. Then a look of disdain appeared. What did this kid say? Gao Peng will lose? What a joke. Didn't he see that the Nether King was smashed into pieces by one punch? Lin Xian ignored these people. He stood with his hands behind his back, looking forward. In the distant void, Gao Peng shattered the Nether King with one punch and turned to leave. He knew that he had won this battle. Moreover, his reputation and status on Cloud Gathering Planet would rise again, reaching an unprecedented height. Wanna leave just like that? A faint voice suddenly sounded. What? Gao Peng stopped in his tracks. His body stiffened and a look of shock appeared in his eyes. Damn it, who is it? Get out here. He roared, and the power in his body erupted, surging in all directions. The surrounding black fog rolled, but it became bigger and bigger, covering the entire sky. What's going on? The others were also stunned. Wasn't Nether King killed? But how did this voice come out? Everyone looked at the sky. The demonic clouds were getting bigger and bigger, and their hearts trembled. Finally, someone screamed. He didn't die. Nether King wasn't killed. That was indeed the case. Even if they didn't dare to believe it, they couldn't deny this fact. Nether King was indeed not dead. He turned into boundless demonic clouds and instantly enveloped Gao Peng. He didn't die? Gao Peng frowned. He didn't expect that after using a power that was close to the Tao and shattering the other party's body, he actually didn't kill him. But soon a cold smile appeared on his face. So what if he didn't die? The other party definitely couldn't block this power of his. I didn't expect you to be so powerful to be able to block my punch. But it's useless. Do you think that these demonic clouds of yours can trap me? Let me tell you, in front of a power that is close to the Tao, everything seems insignificant. At this point he threw his head back and laughed loudly. With a stomp of his foot, the endless void shattered. Now his physique was extremely strong. Every move he made was filled with a power that was close to the Tao. This stomp could destroy any invincible king. Chapter 31-35. He realized that the surrounding demonic clouds didn't shatter. Instead, they became more and more terrifying. They were incomparably dark, as if they were going to swallow him up. Damn it, get lost. Gao Peng roared. His murderous aura was oppressive. He waved his fist and displayed a great power. Big Dipper Immortal Fist. This great power combined with a power that was close to the Tao was enough to destroy everything. However, cold sweat flowed down Gao Peng's face. He was too shocked. The surrounding demonic aura didn't weaken. Instead, it became thicker. He couldn't even see his fingers in front of him. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. A power that's close to the Tao? Do you think you're the only one who has it? I'll let you see my power. Netherworld. With a cold shout, the surrounding demonic aura turned into demons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. They all rushed over and enveloped Gao Peng. This wasn't a simple power. It was a power that was close to the Tao. Moreover, this power was obviously much more terrifying than Gao Peng's Tao of strength. Obviously, the Nether King had mastered this power long ago. Damn it, impossible. How can you be so powerful? Gao Peng was beaten until he retreated. His body cracked and blood flowed wildly. A look of despair appeared in his eyes. After he comprehended the power that was close to the Tao, he was overjoyed and thought that he could defeat everyone. This power was too strong. It was so strong that he was confident that he could even fight with a half-sage. But now, he was seriously injured and couldn't even resist. The other party had also mastered the power that was close to the Tao, and it was even more terrifying than his. Is this a genius from the extraterritorial starry sky? Gao Peng's confidence was shattered into pieces. He originally thought that with his Tao of strength, he could defeat everyone in the extraterritorial starry sky. But now it seemed that he was too naive. Boom. He was directly sent flying. Outside, everyone was shocked when they saw the entire sky covered by endless demonic clouds. What's going on? Is Gao Peng in danger? Those people from the Big Dipper sect said confidently. Are you kidding? Our senior brother Gao Peng has comprehended the power that's close to the Tao. How powerful was this power? How could it be dangerous? No matter how strong the Nether King is, he's no match for our senior brother. Just wait and see. Our senior brother can defeat him once, he can defeat him a second time. In the end, he might even be able to kill him. Indeed, that was a power that was close to the Tao. Not many in the younger generation were able to comprehend it. Not to mention the young people, even among the older generation, there were not many who had comprehended it. Anything that could be comprehended could eventually become a half-saint. People like that were extremely rare. Therefore they regained their confidence and believed that Gao Peng would definitely be able to win this battle. Boom. In the sky there was a rumbling sound. The demonic clouds trembled and a figure flew out. The results were out. Was it the Nether King? Everyone looked over hopefully. In the next moment they were stunned as if they were struck by lightning. The faces of the young geniuses of the Big Dipper sect turned ashen. Many of them fainted from fright. They realized that the one who flew out was not the Nether King but Gao Peng. At this moment, Gao Peng was in an extremely sorry state. His body was shattered and only a small portion of his bones were still connected. His blood turned into a sea of blood that surged in the surroundings. Gao Peng had lost. Countless people cried out in surprise. They couldn't believe it. Impossible. Damn it. Didn't he comprehend a power that was close to the Tao? How could he lose? Everyone went crazy. Only one person was calm. That was Lin Xian. He could tell from the beginning that Gao Peng would lose without a doubt. The power that the Nether King had grasped was close to the Tao. It was very terrifying and far exceeded Gao Peng's. Therefore, Gao Peng's loss in this battle was not unjustified. However, the others didn't know that. Therefore, at this moment, they screamed crazily as if the end of the world had arrived. In the sky, endless demonic clouds condensed and turned into a figure. It was the Nether King. He held a black battle saber in his hand and looked down disdainfully. He snorted coldly. A bunch of ants? What, Gao Peng? That's all there is to it. Don't you have anyone who can fight on your cloud-returning planet? I traveled thousands of miles to descend from the outer realm. I didn't expect you to disappoint me. The Nether King shook his head slightly and ignored Gao Peng and the despairing people around him. He raised his head to look at the sky, showing the lonely look of an expert. His cold voice sounded again. I know that there should be other experts from the outer realm here. They can also attack me. I'll fight them at any time. But trash don't appear. His voice spread millions of miles away. Instantly, countless people trembled. Too domineering. The Nether King was simply like a demon god, suppressing them until they couldn't raise their heads. Damn it, what are you being arrogant for? Where are the experts of my cloud-returning planet? Hurry up and come out and fight with him. Those young prodigies roared crazily. They couldn't accept defeat at all. However, those older generation figures shook their heads and sighed. How to fight? Even Gao Peng, who had comprehended power close to the Tao, was defeated. If others went up, wouldn't they be courting death? Although Gao Peng was powerful, he wasn't the best. My cloud-returning planet is so vast, there are many experts and geniuses. However, it was a pity that those top prodigies were either in seclusion or had already left cloud-returning planet and stepped into the outer realm. Or had not arrived. Otherwise, one of them could finish this guy off. It was useless to say so much. The problem was that no one could suppress the other party now. For a time, countless people below discussed, but no one dared to make a move. The Nether King waited for a long time and was impatient. In his opinion, no one was worthy of him making a move. He turned around and prepared to leave. However, at this moment a figure walked out. Originally he was just passing by to watch the show. I didn't expect to be able to meet an expert like you. Since we've met, then let's fight. A faint voice sounded. This voice was not loud, but everyone heard it clearly. Soon they were stunned. Who was it? He still dared to make a move at this time? Could it be that it was one of the top few people of their cloud-returning planet? That was great. Those people were all stronger than Gao Peng. If they made a move, they would definitely be able to win. Countless gazes were burning with excitement as they searched for the person who spoke. The next moment they saw it. However, they were stunned. Who was this person? They didn't know him. He looked unfamiliar. Not one of the top few prodigies? Could it be another rising prodigy? Everyone discussed. They were extremely puzzled. In front, a youth in red walked out. His face was handsome and the aura on his body was not terrifying. It even made people unable to sense it. Who the hell was this person? They felt that his aura was not even as powerful as the Fire Crow King's. Could such a person be a match? Many young prodigies muttered. Some of the older generation figures also frowned. Many of these people who came to watch the battle were from the top family clans and factions. When they asked, they discovered that it was not the genius disciples of these family clans or large sects that they knew. Then who the hell was this person? Who are you? In the sky, the Nether King looked down, a cold light appearing in his eyes. Chapter 31-36. Lin Xian? Never heard of him. Yu Ming shook his head slightly. Want to exchange blows with me, at least have to be more powerful than that Gao Peng. You. He looked at Lin Xian, a hint of disdain appearing in his eyes. Indeed, he did not feel any terrifying threat from Lin Xian's body. In his view, this might be some hot-headed young martial artist, that was all. There were many such people. He disdained to pay attention to them. But Lin Xian raised a hint of a smile. His eyes twinkled with a golden light. Can't even see my strength, you're not much either? When these words came out, everyone was in an uproar. This brat was too arrogant, right? He actually dared to look down on the Nether King? Heavens, what kind of strength did he have? These people were all dazed. Big brother, if you have strength, why don't you show it? At least show a bit of terrifying killing intent. Look at when the Fire Crow King and Gao Peng came, which one of them did not shake heaven and earth, shatter the void, trample the firmament? But this youth in front of them, they really could not see anything special about him. In the sky, when the Nether King heard this, his face first fell, then he raised his head and laughed loudly. Good. Looks like my methods on this cloud-returning planet are still too gentle. I haven't killed anyone until now. To the extent that any ant dares to challenge me? Now, I'll tell you, prodigies are not to be humiliated. Brat, go to hell for me. 2 beams of piercing cold light erupted from his eyes, turning into black lightning, piercing through the void, charging towards Lin Xian. He was really angry. Looks like if he did not show some cruel methods, these ants would not know his prowess at all. It's over. That brat is going to be killed. Humph, prodigies are not to be humiliated. He provoked the Nether King like this, he definitely has to die. Only an existence like Gao Peng had the qualifications to fight with the Nether King. Everyone was not optimistic about Lin Xian because they could not see through Lin Xian's depths at all. Facing the 2 bolts of black lightning, Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back, a smile on his face. He did not dodge at all, nor did he take any defensive measures. He just watched quietly like this. That brat wouldn't be scared, silly, right? Originally thought that he was some hidden expert, did not expect that he was actually an idiot. This kind of attack, hurry up and dodge. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. The last glimmer of hope in their hearts had been extinguished. Lin Xian's performance did not look like that of a master at all. The Nether King snorted coldly. He didn't want to watch anymore. He turned around and soared into the sky, preparing to leave. However, in the next moment he heard countless screams, causing him to stop in his tracks. When he turned his head, his pupils suddenly shrank to the size of needles. Not dead? He looked down at the red-robed young man in surprise. The surrounding people were really crazy. They saw with their own eyes that the 2 black lightning bolts ruthlessly collided with Lin Xian's body and exploded with an incomparably terrifying destructive energy. The void was shattered, but Lin Xian stood there with his hands clasped behind his back, completely unharmed. Heavens, what did I just see? He had actually withstood this attack. Furthermore, he was completely unharmed. Wasn't this kid's physique a little too strong? Body refinement expert, this was definitely a body refinement expert. We all misjudged him. This kid was very strong. Screams and screams were heard. The Fire Crow King and Gao Peng were also stunned. To be honest, when Lin Xian stood out, Gao Peng shook his head. Even he had been defeated. Who else could be the Nether King's match? Unless it was the few people who were above him. However, he was incomparably familiar with those people. He didn't know Lin Xian at all. In other words, he couldn't possibly be an expert. Wasn't such a person courting death by coming out? When he saw Lin Xian face the black lightning bolt without dodging, Gao Peng was even more certain of this thought in his heart. However, when he saw the result, Gao Peng was stunned. He was stupefied. He couldn't believe that the other party was completely unharmed. Gao Peng was a body refinement expert. When faced with a normal attack from the Nether King, he naturally dared to use his physique to withstand it. However, this didn't mean that others would dare to do so. For example, the Fire Crow King beside him didn't dare to. He had to use offensive divine abilities to shatter or dodge. However, the young man in front of him had actually used his physique to block this attack. This meant that the other party's physique was definitely not weaker than Gao Peng's. When did such a body refinement expert appear in Cloud Returning Planet? Gao Peng and the rest were shocked. The others were also guessing. Could it be someone from the Big Dipper sect? Or someone from the Dragon Tiger sect? No, it shouldn't be someone from the Big Dipper sect. Didn't you see that they were also at a loss? It couldn't be someone from the Dragon Tiger sect either. Those people were also here. They also didn't know them. Who was this kid? Everyone went crazy. In the sky, the Nether King looked at this scene and was similarly surprised. I didn't expect that I actually misjudged you. You're also a body refinement expert. However, it's a pity. Kid, you've already angered me just now. Therefore, no matter what, I'll kill you. At this point, he stretched out his left hand and pointed forward with his index finger. Between heaven and earth, violent fluctuations. Endless black gas transformed into a black finger with monstrous demonic patterns on it, descending from the sky. Strong winds howled and thunder flashed. This finger seemed to have crossed over from the demonic world. It was extremely terrifying. As for the aftermath of that energy, it pressed down on the surrounding people who were watching the battle from afar, causing them to tremble and kneel on the ground. So valiant. The Fire Crow King's body trembled. Gao Peng also frowned and stared at Lin Xian. What was the other party going to do? Take it head-on, counterattack, or dodge? Facing this shocking attack, Lin Xian still stood with his hands behind his back. He didn't have the slightest intention of dodging. Boom boom boom. This time it completely enveloped Lin Xian. Endless demonic qi exploded, turning into a storm and spreading in all directions. That kid took it head-on again? Everyone was trembling in fear. This time it was much stronger than the previous two gazes. Brother Gao Peng, do you think he can take it? The Fire Crow King at the side asked carefully. Gao Peng's expression was incomparably solemn. I don't know. However, if he can really take it, then this kid's physique is definitely not below mine. In front, endless demonic qi rolled. Then a figure appeared. It was Lin Xian. His body was still spotless and he didn't suffer any injuries. What? The eyes of the spectators in the distance almost popped out of their sockets. Gao Peng also sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that the other party's physique was really strong. It wasn't weaker than his Big Dipper body. You only have this bit of strength? Lin Xian still stood with his hands behind his back, looking up at the Nether King in the sky. Show me your true abilities. Otherwise you can't hurt me. Damn kid. Yu Ming's expression completely darkened. This finger couldn't kill the other party? The other party's physique was still above his imagination. So what? The Nether King was completely enraged. He stretched out his left hand and slammed it down. Nether King's hand. This was a kind of great magical power. Even if it didn't display the power close to the Tao, it was still very terrifying. When the palm struck out, Gao Peng's hair stood on end. He felt a huge threat. If he didn't use the power close to the Tao, he shouldn't be able to block this move. He guessed that Lin Xian shouldn't be able to block it either. That kid should have dodged. However, in the next moment he was stunned. Because he realized that Lin Xian still didn't dodge. Chapter 31-37. In his opinion, even if Lin Xian's physique was strong, he should be about the same as him. It was impossible for him to surpass him. Even he had to dodge when facing such an attack, let alone the other party. However, under everyone's stunned gazes, Lin Xian still forcibly blocked this palm. He was unharmed. This time, not to mention the martial artists of Cloud Return Planet, even the Nether King was stunned. His palm was not weak. Although it was not his full strength, it was a kind of great magical power. He was confident that he could shatter the heavenly body. However, not only did the other party block it, but he was also unharmed. This was too shocking. Blocking and coming out unscathed were two different concepts. This meant that the other party's physique was far above their imagination. His strength was stronger than before, but it was still not enough. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. His body emitted crackling sounds. I've taken 3 of your moves. Have a taste of my attack. Buzz. He clenched his right hand into a fist. On his fist, golden patterns quickly spread, turning into a golden crow that blasted towards the sky. Boom. Above, the sky for millions of miles was instantly blasted apart. Boundless flames spread. A golden fist instantly blasted onto the Nether King's body. Boom. Boom. The Nether King was sent flying hundreds of thousands of miles. A smear of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The armor on his body was shattered. This punch had injured him. The Nether King was injured. Heavens, how was this possible? The people watching the battle from afar went crazy. The Fire Crow King was so frightened that his face was pale. Gao Peng also stood up. At this moment, his entire body was still covered in blood. His injuries had not fully recovered. However, he already could not care less. He was really too shocked. He did not expect that Lin Xian's punch was actually so terrifying. One punch injured the Nether King. Who exactly was this kid? How could his strength be so strong? Gao Peng cultivated the heavenly body. At this moment he could naturally feel that the heavenly body was actually trembling. This was something that had never happened before. What exactly was the other party's physique? It actually caused the heavenly body to have such a reaction. Damn kid, you dare to hurt me. The Nether King was furious. His figure flashed and instantly charged over from hundreds of thousands of miles away. This time he didn't dare to be careless. He knew that the person in front of him was definitely a strong enemy. But so what? Previously he had been careless. Now he was going to go all out. The black spear in his hand was raised high, emitting a cold killing intent. The black battle spear swung down, breaking through the void and slashing viciously toward Lin Xian. This time even Gao Peng would be split in half. However, Lin Xian still did not dodge. He raised his golden hand and slapped it toward the sky. From the looks of it, he wanted to catch this move with his bare hands. It can't be, right? This guy actually wanted to take this move with his bare hands? How could this be? The black spear was obviously a semi-divine weapon, and an extremely terrifying one at that. Even Gao Peng's heavenly steel body couldn't resist it. This brat was too arrogant. Gao Peng was equally nervous. Would the other party be able to block it? He didn't believe it. However, Lin Xian's punch had given him too much of a shock. Clang. An earth-shattering sound was heard. Countless people's ears were bleeding from the shock, and many people's bodies were cracked. From this, one could imagine how frightening the collision was. However, what made everyone pee their pants was that Lin Xian's palm was still completely unharmed. It shone with a golden light in the sky, like the sun. The black spear was blocked by him and he was holding it in his hand. This weapon was good. Lin Xian commented as if he wasn't in a life-and-death battle. Damn it, who are you? Who the hell are you? Nether King roared. He was very clear about how terrifying his black spear was. No one could stop it. However, the other party blocked it with only his physical body. This was definitely not something that the heavenly steel body could compare with. Who are you? Holy body or battle body? He screamed crazily. In his opinion, only this kind of powerful body, which was passed down in ancient legends, could block his death spear with his bare hands. Who are you? Who the hell are you? This roaring sound reverberated between heaven and earth. The other spectators were also very puzzled. They also wanted to know who the other party was. At this moment, Lin Xian was the center of attention and was shrouded in countless gazes. He was still calm and said indifferently, "My name is Lin Xian. I've already said it before. However, in the future you can remember one of my titles. My name is Lin Wudi." His voice resounded in all directions, stunning everyone. Lin Wudi. Those 3 words struck everyone's hearts like thunder, making them tremble. What kind of confidence was that? How dare he call himself invincible? One had to know that this title was different from that of an invincible king. An invincible king was actually a 9-star king, which represented the highest level of a king. However, an invincible king was not truly invincible. Even an invincible king at the great perfection stage was no match for a half-sage. Sure enough, Nether King snorted coldly after hearing that. Kid, you're too arrogant. The world is so big, who dares to call himself invincible? You're still far from being invincible. He was furious. The way he saw it, Lin Xian should be an expert. It was just that he didn't want to reveal his real name. As for Lin Wudi, he did not believe it at all. This should be a trick of the other parties. Lin Xian snorted coldly. How can trash like you understand my Tao? At this point, a piercing cold light burst out from his eyes, and the golden sword on his body soared into the sky. At this moment, Lin Xian was truly domineering to the extreme. At this moment he no longer concealed his abilities. Instead he revealed his abilities. Lin Wudi. That's right. From now on that would be his title. Lin Xian decided to embark on the path of invincibility. He wanted to conquer the world and be invincible. Damn it. That aura. Everyone in the distance was stunned. The sword chi on Lin Xian's body was too terrifying. As soon as he appeared, these people all trembled. Those who were weaker even knelt on the ground and could not raise their heads at all. Not only that, but the weapons on their bodies also trembled as if they were worshipping an emperor. Even the Fire Crow King and Gao Peng's bodies trembled. This kind of trembling was uncontrollable. Damn it, who is this person? Especially Gao Peng. He had already comprehended the power of Tao and could be said to be standing at the peak. However, at this moment he was still trembling in front of Lin Xian. When the Nether King felt the sharp sword chi, his expression also changed. Too powerful. Far surpassing Gao Peng, even surpassing him. Damn it, get out of my way. Dance of Death. At this point, the Nether King also mobilized all of his power and crazily waved the death battle spear in his hand. Buzz. Lin Xian released his grip and let go of the death battle spear. His right hand rose into the air, and endless golden light formed a golden sword in his hand. He slashed down from the sky. Slash. On the opposite side, the Nether King also shouted coldly. The death battle spear danced crazily and collided with the golden sword in the air. With a clang, the void within a million miles shattered again. Endless waves of air spread out in all directions with the two of them as the center. Everyone was swept away and sent flying. Gao Peng also kept retreating. In the end, he had no choice but to activate the power of Dao to block this attack. Chapter 31-38. After the attack, the Nether King spat out blood and flew backward. His entire right arm was shattered. The death spear was sent flying. He was severely injured. Lin Xian, on the other hand, pointed forward like a god of swords. From the beginning to the end he was not injured at all. Bring out your power that is close to the Dao. Otherwise it will not be enough. Indeed, the reason why Lin Xian attacked was to experience the Nether King's power that was close to the Dao. He knew that in the future battles he would have to fight more and more monstrous geniuses. He might even fight with half-saints and sages. He wanted to understand all kinds of power and laws that were close to the Dao. As you wish. The Nether King's broken arm grew back, and the death spear was in his hand again. His expression became cold. That was because he was very confident in his Netherworld Dao. No matter how strong his opponent was, so what? He had a power that was close to the Dao. The Netherworld Dao. Endless black gas spread out from the Nether King's body, completely covering the entire sky. Then the Nether King's entire body was immersed in the darkness. For a moment, everyone saw the endless darkness again. They could not see the battle inside. Gao Peng had to retreat. It was the Nether King's Netherworld Dao that defeated his Dao of strength. The Netherworld Dao suppressed even the soul. It was impossible to see. Lin Xian was wrapped in endless darkness as he muttered to himself. Indeed, it was pitch black. He could not see or hear anything at all. It was equivalent to depriving him of all his senses. If someone else was wrapped in such darkness, they would probably be instantly assassinated. Boom, boom, clang. Sure enough, in the next moment he received tens of thousands of attacks. This happened in the blink of an eye. Then Lin Xian received hundreds of thousands of attacks. However, his body was still flickering with mysterious runes. At this moment, his 9-yang divine body had reached the half-saint realm. The strength of his physique was definitely beyond imagination. No matter how powerful the Nether King's divine ability was or how terrifying his weapon was, it would probably not be able to break through his physical body. Damn it, he's actually so strong. The Nether King hid in the darkness again. His arm was numb. After hundreds of thousands of attacks, not to mention an invincible king, even a group of invincible kings would be killed. However, nothing happened to the Nether King. What exactly was his physique? This damned brat actually dared to be so arrogant. He discovered that Lin Xian didn't even counterattack in the hundreds of thousands of attacks from before. Instead, he simply allowed himself to be hit. The Nether King was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. However, he still had a trump card, and that was the Netherworld Dao. The endless darkness flickered with a dim light and quickly gathered towards the Death War halberd in his hand. This time, the Death War spear was imbued with a power that was close to the Dao. Let's see how you're going to dodge this time. Yuming let out a soundless chuckle as he appeared behind Lin Xian like a ghost. He quickly raised the Death War spear in his hand and brought it down viciously. There was no sound or light during the entire process, so the other party definitely wouldn't be able to sense it. But in the next moment he was scared out of his wits. In front of him, Lin Xian suddenly turned his head. The golden light in his eyes shone like two divine lamps in the darkness. Damn it, I've been discovered. What kind of eyes were those? Yuming was so frightened that his hair stood on end. However, he had already made his move, and he had even imbued it with a power that was close to the Dao. So what if the other party had discovered him? Death War Spear, first slash of the Netherworld. When the War Spear slashed down, endless black gas rolled. Even if Gao Peng had mastered the Dao of Power, he wouldn't be able to survive. In his opinion, Lin Xian was definitely going to die. Lin Xian didn't dodge in the face of this shocking killing move. However, at this moment, runes flickered in his golden eyes. Then a red light flew out. Whoosh! This ball of flame was very small, like a soybean. It landed on the Death War Spear and suddenly exploded, turning into a monstrous fire that swept in all directions. The Dao of Fire, Smoke and Fire. At this moment, Lin Xian also displayed a power that was close to the Dao. Moreover, his power that was close to the Dao was extremely terrifying, especially the power of fire. Therefore, as soon as it appeared, The surrounding endless black gas and demonic clouds rolled violently. Then they were ignited and burned. A power that was close to the Tao. The Tao of fire. Damn it, suppress it for me. The Nether King roared. He didn't expect the other party to have a power that was close to the Tao. Moreover, it was the power of fire. He mobilized the Netherworld Tao and quickly suppressed it. But soon he screamed in horror. I can't suppress it. How can your power be so strong? He was going crazy. One had to know that previously, Gao Peng also had a power that was close to the Tao. However, the Nether King didn't care. Because he could see that Gao Peng had just mastered this power. In the eyes of others, it might be very strong. But in front of him it was pitifully weak. But now he was actually trembling. Lin Xian's power of fire was much more terrifying than his Netherworld Tao. He was definitely a super genius. Damn it. The Nether King wanted to escape, but he was enveloped by the monstrous flames. In the next moment he screamed as his body was ignited. Outside, everyone was waiting anxiously. They didn't know how the battle was going. But suddenly Gao Peng screamed. In the next moment, countless people stretched their necks and looked into the distance. Above the sky, a fiery red light suddenly lit up in the endless darkness. Then, the demonic aura that filled the sky was covered by flames and burned fiercely. The entire world was illuminated by the flames. Flames, it was flames. Where did the flames come from? It was from that kid. Heavens, he actually burned the demonic aura. It was close to the power of the path. Gao Peng's body trembled. Although he controlled the path of power, he was insignificant in front of the power of fire. The others also screamed. Was this the power that was close to the path? That kid was actually a top-notch expert. They had misjudged him. They didn't expect there to be such a super expert by their side. They didn't know which was stronger, the path of fire or the path of the netherworld. Gao Peng was also extremely nervous and clenched his fists. Soon he was stunned. He saw a figure flying out of the sky and being ignited by the endless flames. He was screaming in pain. It was the Nether King. The Nether King was defeated. The Nether King was burned. Screams came one after another. The demonic aura that filled the sky was burned, and the endless flames formed a fire dragon that crawled under Lin Xian's feet. Damn it, I admit defeat. Stop. The Netherworld Tao fell into the mountain range and shattered dozens of mountains. But he still couldn't put out the flames on his body. Therefore he could only admit defeat. Hearing that, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Suddenly all the flames in the sky entered his body. The Nether King fell to the ground, panting non-stop. His expression was extremely ugly. Defeated, the Nether King was actually defeated. Gao Peng's body trembled, and the others were even more stunned. They knew how terrifying the Nether King was. He swept in all directions and even Gao Peng was no match for him. Chapter 31-39. They could see that if Lin Xian hadn't held back, the Nether King would have been killed. Who are you? Which sector you from? Which planet are you from? The Nether King stood up and roared. He couldn't believe it, so he had to know the other party's identity. Lin Xian stood on the fire dragon with his hands behind his back, looking like a god. His voice echoed between heaven and earth. You just need to know that my name is Lin Wudi. After saying that, the fire dragon under his feet carried him and flew into the distance, disappearing into the sky. Lin Wudi. The Nether King's expression was ugly. The others muttered the name in their hearts, shocked. Although Lin Xian had left, the shock he caused was still there. And it was getting more and more intense. Then the news swept through the entire cloud-returning planet like a storm. Everyone knew that Gao Peng had been defeated in this battle. The Nether King attacked powerfully, suppressing everyone until they couldn't raise their heads. Then, someone called Lin Wudi attacked and defeated the Nether King in a few moves. In the end, he only left the crowd to watch. Too cool. That Lin Wudi is too cool. I must marry such a man. Many women were infatuated. This is a true peerless expert. As for the other great sects of the Holy Lands and the top families, they were frantically searching for information on Lin Wudi. However, they realized that they knew nothing about him. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air and then disappeared without a trace. They couldn't find him at all. Lin Wudi. The Nether King gritted his teeth. He turned and soared into the sky, leaving cloud-returning planet. Although I don't know who you are, one day we will meet again on the ancient path of stars. The Nether King left completely. And on cloud-returning planet it continued. Everyone was talking about this battle and the mysterious young man Lin Wudi. At this time, Lin Xian had already left Heaven's Vault Peak. He set off again. It was about time to give Wan Gong young Master Shin, and the others a warning. Defeating the Nether King was just a small interlude. Lin Xian's current priority was to break through to the Half-Saint realm. This was because he could see that the top group of Sky Prides had already grasped a power that was close to the Tao. However, whoever could break through to the Half-Saint realm first and master the Precept Fragment would be able to seize the opportunity and suppress the other geniuses. Lin Xian now had a huge advantage over those people. His physical body was still at the Half-Saint level. Next, he only needed his cultivation and comprehension of the laws to reach that level. Now that he had the sacred breakthrough pill, he could significantly increase the speed and success rate. Forming a seal with his palms, Lin Xian triggered the flame he had left in young Master Shin's body. He knew that those aristocratic family disciples wouldn't obediently collect them. After all, although he had displayed a bit of his strength back then, it was not as shocking as the battle with the Nether King today. Therefore, with the status and thoughts of those family disciples, they should have turned a deaf ear to it. However, things might not be the same in the future. The Shin family. It was a very famous family in the northern continent. Although it wasn't the best, it was still a big family. After young Master Shin returned to the Shin family, he behaved himself for a few days and then came out again. Of course, he didn't go far. He stayed within the Shin family's sphere of influence. At this moment, he had gathered a group of genius disciples from big families to hunt. They had gained a lot from this battle. In the sky, a team flew quickly. It was young Master Shin and his group. Each of them was sitting on a bloody dragon horse. This was a type of flying beast. Behind each bloody dragon horse hung a huge corpse. These were the demon kings they hunted. Every one of them was terrifying. The group of people attracted a lot of attention. Brother Shin, your strength has increased again. Yes, that slash just now was really powerful. It directly killed the tiger demon's vital point. An ordinary 9-star demon king is no match for Brother Shin. Young Master Shin was very happy. He was overjoyed to hear the compliments of the surrounding Sky Prides. As for the spirit herbs Lin Xian had asked him to collect, he had long forgotten about them. In his opinion, Lin Xian was strong enough to fight against the Bloody Blade King. But so what? No matter how strong the Bloody Blade King was, it was only in Giant Armor City. Here the Shin family was still in charge. No matter how strong the Bloody Blade King was, would he dare to behave atrociously in the Shin family's territory? The answer was definitely no. Thus, young Master Shin didn't take Su Chen's words to heart. But in the next moment, his body trembled. His pupils constricted and he screamed in horror. This was because a tiny flame inside his body was trembling slightly. Then it spread rapidly. His internal organs were burned to ashes. In the next moment, endless flames appeared on the surface of his body and enveloped him. Young Master Shin screamed and fell from the bloody dragon horse. He rolled in midair looking very miserable. Endless smoke filled the air. Damn it, what's going on? Brother Shin. The martial artists around him were scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. The Shin family's powerful cultivators also rushed over. Young Master. They attacked as if they had gone crazy. Watch me. An old man opened his mouth and spat out seawater to envelop young Master Shin. But it was useless. Use mine. I have a sea orchid pearl passed down from my ancestors. Just then a prodigy took out a blue pearl and threw it out. The pearl shattered as soon as it got close to the flame. That prodigy vomited blood and flew backward. Damn it, what's going on? Everyone was stunned. Next, they tried more than a dozen magical powers and dozens of treasures. But it was useless. Young Master Shin was burned to a dry corpse amidst endless screams of horror. The other prodigies were terrified as if they were facing a great enemy. Who was it? Who dared to attack here? They screamed like crazy. But there was only a chilly wind blowing around. No one answered. The Shin family's powerful cultivators trembled. In just an instant, their young master was burned to a dry corpse. They couldn't react at all. Everyone knew it was over. Something big had happened. Young Master Shin was the descendant of one of the Shin family's patriarchs. He was very popular. Now that young Master Shin was dead, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Go quickly. These people carried the burnt corpse and flew quickly. They even abandoned the demonic beasts that were hunting. They quickly returned to the Shin family. The other genius martial artists were also extremely frightened and quickly fled. Who knew if there were any powerful cultivators around? After the Shin family received the news, they were in an uproar. The Shin family's patriarch directly came out of seclusion. Looking at the burnt corpse, he roared to the sky. Damn it, who was it? The Shin family's battle servants knelt on the ground, trembling. Patriarch, I didn't see clearly. Young master seemed to have burned out of thin air. Chapter 3140. Investigate. Send the family's experts to investigate. You must find out who did it. I must tear him to shreds. The Shen family's patriarch roared at the sky, and the power in his body soared into the sky. At the same time, the news also spread out. Because after all, in addition to the Shen family's martial artists, there were more than a dozen genius disciples of the big clans present. After experiencing this scene, they were terrified, and the news came from their mouths. For a time, the city was in an uproar. Among them, Wangong, Haiyu, Yumin, and those people who were planted with the flame restriction by Lin Xian all learned about it. They were scared out of their wits and returned to their clans in a hurry. They had no choice. Previously, their thoughts were the same as young Master Shen's. They thought that if they returned to the sphere of influence controlled by their clans, no matter how strong the other party was, he could not do anything to them. But now it was different. Young Master Shen burned out of thin air and turned into a dried corpse. This scene really provoked them. Who knew if they would be the next? For a time, these people went crazy. They first asked the elders of their clans for help, asking them to break the flame restriction in their bodies. But soon they despaired. Because they found that although the flame restriction was small, it could not be broken at all. A few people despaired. After countless attempts, they finally put away their thoughts and began to collect the spiritual herbs that Lin Xian ordered with all their strength. However, people like Wang Gong and Haiyu did not give up. They searched for all kinds of ways. Among them, Wang Gong returned to the Tiangang sect and asked his master for help. Haiyu came to a mountain range alone, wearing a light muslin, and then walked into one of the cave abodes. Although this storm was not small, it was still drowned in the legend of Lin Wudi. On the other side, Lin Xian withdrew his palm. This was just a small warning. He thought that those people should obediently collect the spiritual herbs. If he still did not see the spiritual herbs after 3 months, then he would definitely not be merciful. He wondered how many of those people in Thousand Herb Hall had collected. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He decided to go to Giant Armor City again to take a look. Apart from the few precious spirit herbs that were hard to find, he had to speed up his search for the other spirit herbs. After all, he didn't just collect 1 but 3. With a flicker, Lin Xian soared into the sky and disappeared. Ever since Lin Xian had left, the Bloody Blade Monarch and Madame Hua had been doing their best to gather spiritual herbs in the Great Armor City's myriad herb hall. They knew how powerful Lin Xian was, so they didn't dare to resist. And the whole thing was proceeding smoothly and quickly. Lin Xian had left behind a large number of spirit herbs, but other than the most expensive ones, most of them could be found in the 10,000 herb hall. As for the precious few, they decided to search for them slowly. However, in the past few days, the 10,000 herb hall had clearly not been collecting spiritual herbs. Of course, it wasn't because they had betrayed Lin Xian, but because something else had happened. At this moment, a group of people had gathered in the grand hall of the 10,000 herb hall. Sitting at the very top was the Bloody Blade Monarch. Beside him was Madame Hua, and on both sides were the elders of the 10,000 herb hall. However, it was obvious that these elders were all injured. The Bloody Blade Monarch's expression was very ugly. He looked at the letter in his hand and his body trembled slightly. Are you saying that that fellow has really returned? That's right, he has indeed returned. When we were collecting spiritual herbs, we encountered him and were injured by him. Furthermore, he asked us to pass on a message. He will come in 3 days to settle the matter from back then. Damn it, he's too arrogant. There are so many of us. Do we have to be afraid of him? Madame Hua snorted coldly and looked at the Bloody Blade Monarch. The Bloody Blade Monarch's expression was very grave. How many people did he bring this time to injure you? The elders below all had ugly expressions. There weren't many people, just him. What? The moment this was said, the other powerhouses in the hall were stunned. Madame Hua's body also trembled, and the Bloody Blade Monarch's pupils shrank. One person. How was that possible? He only knew that these elders of his were all invincible kings. What? One person could defeat all of them? Your Majesty, we discovered that this fellow's strength seems to have reached the complete 9-star realm. What? Complete 9-star realm? Hearing this, the Bloody Blade Monarch stood up with a bang. The complete 9-star realm was the last realm of the 9 new kings. It was 1 level higher than him. He was only at the peak of the 9-star realm, 1 step away from the complete 9-star realm. This step was like a moat that was very difficult to cross. Damn it. Although the Bloody Blade Monarch was gritting his teeth, the blood sea behind him was surging, and Madame Hua's face was pale. He quickly said, "Your Majesty, why don't we quickly contact the Qi family and let the other sect's experts kill him? Even the Bloody Blade Monarch might not be able to defeat a complete 9-star realm expert, let alone others. Perhaps only the Qi family's experts could do it." However, the Bloody Blade Monarch shook his head. "No, this is our own matter. If we ask the Qi family for help, they will think that I'm useless. At that time, not only will they not help me, but they might even remove me. After all, the Qi family would not raise trash." The Bloody Blade Monarch knew that they couldn't ask the Qi family for help. It seemed that they had to think of another way. Their faces were filled with worry. Just like that, 2 days passed. There was only 1 day left before the 3 days that they spoke of. The Bloody Blade Monarch and the others couldn't find any way to resist. On the 3rd day the sun rose. No one had slept for 3 days. To them it wasn't a big deal. However, everyone's face was filled with worry. The entire 10,000 herb hall was not open for business. They were facing a great enemy. The array was activated, ready to strike at any time. However, at that moment, a figure walked in from outside the 10,000 herb hall. "Is he here?" Sensing that someone had entered, everyone was on their guard. In the 10,000 herb hall's main hall, a figure walked in. His footsteps were like thunder, shaking everyone's hearts. Following that was a cold voice. "What? I haven't seen you for a few days and you want to rebel? You want to use arrays to deal with me?" This voice was very sharp and carried a murderous aura, causing the surrounding array formation to tremble. Damn it, how can the enemy be so powerful? Many elders trembled. However, the Bloody Blade Monarch's pupils constricted. No, it wasn't him. It seemed to be young Master Lin's voice. Young Master Lin was here. Hurry up and welcome him. What? You're talking about that young Master Lin? They naturally wouldn't forget who young Master Lin was. They had been collecting spirit herbs day and night for the sake of that young man. Previously they had wanted to find Lin Xian for help, but they couldn't contact Lin Xian at all. They hadn't expected Lin Xian to come at the most crucial moment. The Bloody Blade Monarch and the others were very excited. They hurried out. At the same time, the Bloody Blade Monarch shouted, "Young Master, it's a misunderstanding. We're not targeting you." Chapter 3141. Lin Xian was in the hall. After his battle with the Underworld King on Chenxiong Peak, he had flown towards Giant Armor City. He had finally arrived on this day. When he arrived at the 10,000 herb hall, he felt that it was unusual. Originally, the 10,000 herb hall had been bustling with people. However, it was very quiet now. Not a single person was present, and the array had even been opened. It was obvious that they were targeting someone. Therefore, Lin Xian had thought that they were targeting him. However, it seemed that this wasn't the case. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He frowned slightly when he saw the Bloody Blade Monarch, Madame Hua, and a group of elders walking towards him. Then he asked, "How many of the spiritual herbs have you collected?" "Young Master, we have collected a portion of them." After saying that, the Bloody Blade Monarch took out a storage ring respectfully. Lin Xian took it and probed it with his soul. He nodded slightly. Barely enough. However, it wasn't very fast. Hearing this, everyone trembled. Deep fear appeared in their eyes. They wouldn't forget Lin Xian's methods. The Bloody Blade Monarch broke out in a cold sweat. He said, "Young Master, it's not that we don't want to hurry up and collect them. However, we have encountered some trouble." "Trouble? What kind of trouble? Tell me." Lin Xian put away the storage ring and asked coldly. "It's like this. Recently, the 10,000 herb hall has been targeted. Therefore, we don't dare to collect spiritual herbs. Not to mention collecting spiritual herbs, we don't even know if we can survive." According to the Bloody Blade Monarch, this had happened 200 years ago. Back then, he had used all sorts of methods to climb higher on the martial Dao. Among them, he had gone against someone. At that time, he had used some methods to defeat that person. He had even broken that person's arm. At first, he had thought that person had died 200 years ago. However, he hadn't expected that person to return today. Moreover, he had killed his way back from the Purgatory planet. That person's cultivation had surpassed his. He had reached the 9-star Great Circle. It was even said that he had become a disciple of an extremely terrifying half-sage. Regardless of whether it was his status or strength, he had surpassed the Bloody Blade Monarch. Therefore, that person would naturally seek revenge on the Bloody Blade Monarch. 9-star Great Circle? A half-sage? Lin Xian frowned slightly. What was his name? When will he come? His name is Lone Wolf and the message he sent me was today. Lone Wolf? Today? Lin Xian coldly snorted. It didn't matter if he was a great circle expert or a half-sage disciple. Even a half-sage wouldn't be able to stop him. Don't worry. With me around, Lone Wolf and Half-Saint won't be a threat to you. You just need to focus on gathering spirit herbs for me. Thank you, young master. Upon hearing Lin Xian's words, the Bloody Blade Monarch and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian was quite terrifying. He had completely surpassed them. It should not be a problem for him to deal with Lone Wolf. Bloody Blade Monarch, it's been 200 years. I didn't expect you to be doing so well. But today I'm here to take your life. A cold and emotionless voice suddenly sounded between heaven and earth. Immediately after, the surrounding void cracked open like a poisonous snake baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, causing one to tremble. Here it comes. In the main hall, the elders and powerhouses of the myriad herb hall trembled. Their eyes were filled with deep shock. The Bloody Blade Monarch's eyelids also twitched. However, in the next moment he coldly snorted. Lone Wolf, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Furthermore, you're so reckless as to provoke me. Today I'll thoroughly turn you into a dead wolf. With Lin Xian by his side, the Bloody Blade Monarch was naturally filled with confidence. He waved his hand and the defensive array formation outside opened, creating a vacuum zone. Then, the Bloody Blade Monarch respectfully said to Lin Xian, "Young master, please take a seat." Lin Xian had his hands behind his back as he walked north. Soon he sat on a blood-red throne. The Bloody Blade Monarch, Madame Hua, and the surrounding elders all carefully accompanied him. Whoosh! Thunder roared ahead as the void cracked open. A gray figure directly charged into the main hall. It was a man in gray robes. His face was cold and there were 2 scars on his face. His eyes were a strange blue. The blood-red aura on his body was extremely terrifying. It was even more terrifying than the Bloody Blade Monarch's. It was as if he had crawled out of a boundless sea of blood. This person was the Bloody Blade Monarch's enemy from 200 years ago, Lone Wolf. When Lone Wolf arrived, he looked around. When he saw that the person sitting in the middle wasn't the Bloody Blade Monarch, but a young man, he was slightly stunned. However, he quickly stopped paying attention to him. He had come to kill the Bloody Blade Monarch, so he naturally knew that the other party had sided with the Qi family. In his opinion, Lin Xian should be a young master of the Qi family. Although his status was precious, what about his strength? He simply didn't think much of him. He had come this time to kill the Bloody Blade Monarch and immediately leave the cloud-returning planet. No matter how powerful the Qi family was, what could they do to him? If Lin Xian dared obstruct him, he would just kill him with one slash. Thus, his gaze quickly shifted from Lin Xian to the Bloody Blade Monarch. 200 years ago, when you crippled me and even wanted to kill me, you didn't expect this day to come, did you? Today, I will put an end to the 200 years of enmity. Lone Wolf's voice carried a trace of madness. He had probably suffered all kinds of torture over the past 200 years. Back then he had lost an arm and been chased down. He had been seriously injured and had almost died. Fortunately, he had seized the opportunity to completely leave the cloud-returning planet and come to the terrifying Purgatory planet. On the Purgatory planet, he had suffered a lot and eventually become the disciple of an extremely terrifying half-sage. He had cultivated a lot of remarkable abilities. Now he had reached the great circle of the 9-star realm. He felt that the time was right, so he had returned to the cloud-returning planet to prepare for revenge. You want to kill me? You don't have that ability. The Bloody Blade Monarch snorted and stepped forward. Although he knew that Lone Wolf's cultivation level was higher than his, he naturally wasn't afraid now that Lin Xian was around. Thus he wanted to test Lone Wolf's skills. With a clang, the Bloody Blade Monarch drew his blade. The surrounding sea of blood surged as he charged at Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf sneered. Peak 9-star? You're no match for me. I'm at the great circle of the 9-star realm now. Blood-colored lightning erupted from his body, and a destructive power directly pierced through the sea of blood. At the same time, his fist carried blood-colored runes and rushed out like a volcano erupting. Boom, boom. The two of them exchanged blows and it was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, the 10,000 herb hall was enveloped by an array formation. Otherwise it would have been reduced to ashes. After 10 moves, the Bloody Blade Monarch was sent flying. His chi and blood were in turmoil and his arm was blown apart. He spat out a lot of blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. The difference between the two of them was one realm. That was a world of difference. Haha, is this your strength? Too trash. Don't worry, I'll catch you and torture you to death bit by bit. Chapter 3142. The bloody blade monarch kept retreating. At the same time he roared and attacked. When the 6 elders heard this, they immediately took action. The 6 of them activated the array in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. The 6 of them were like gods of death. They had killing swords on their bodies, and the array emitted countless rays of light. They carried a thunderous aura that pierced through the void. The 6 elders cooperated and quickly attacked Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf roared, "Do you think a mere killing array can do anything to me? Today I'll let you see the results of my 200 years of cultivation." With an angry roar, Lone Wolf's blood-colored aura spread out, forming a bloody wolf that emitted endless divine light. It raised its head and roared. The moment the blood wolf phantom appeared, it roared and slapped away the golden spear as well as the 6 old men. "It's useless. My current strength far surpasses yours. You are just a bunch of ants. You have no ability to resist. Kneel down and I'll give you a quick death. Whoever dares to stop me will suffer the same fate as the bloody blade monarch. They will suffer 100 years of torture and never be reincarnated." Lone Wolf snorted coldly. The bloody wolf behind him roared and shattered the array around them. The 6 elders were too slow. Their bodies exploded, leaving only their heads. They fled in panic and reassembled in the distance. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. The bloody blade monarch's expression was ugly. Under normal circumstances they would probably be dead. However, it was different now. He looked at Lin Xian. He wasn't the only one. Madame Hua, as well as the surrounding elders and guards, all looked at Lin Xian. This was because Lin Xian was their last hope. Lin Xian had been squinting. He didn't care about the previous battle. Instead, he was examining the spiritual herbs in his hand. He even used his soul power to flip through the alchemy sage's notes. He wouldn't let go of any opportunity to cultivate. As for Lone Wolf, he didn't care at all. The Underworld King was strong. He had swept across the Cloud Planet and suppressed everyone. However, he had still been defeated by Lone Wolf. Thus, Lone Wolf was no different from an ant in his eyes. To the side, the Bloody Blade King noticed that Lin Xian had one hand on his chin, seemingly deep in thought. They didn't dare to disturb him and could only be even more respectful. For a moment, the entire hall was silent. When Lone Wolf saw this, he sneered. "Blood Knife, I have to say that you really are trash. I didn't expect you to rely on such a brat. I know that you've been relying on the Qi family all these years. You should be one of the young masters of the Qi family, right? However, it's a pity that you want to use the Qi clan to pressure me. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I don't fear the Qi family at all, because my foundation isn't even on returning Cloud Planet. After I kill you, I'll immediately leave and return to Planet Blood Refinement. Do you think the Qi clan will chase me to the Blood Refinement Star just for you?" Hearing that, everyone's expressions changed. The Bloody Blade Monarch snorted coldly. "What do you know? How can you understand the young master's strength?" At this point, his expression became even more respectful. Gu Lang snorted and stared at Lin Xian. "Brat, you're from the Qi clan, aren't you? Get out of here. This matter has nothing to do with you. Otherwise, if you piss me off, I'll kill you as well." His voice was filled with boundless killing intent. However, Gu Lang was soon stunned. In the next moment, his face sank. He noticed that the young man in front of him was still sitting there with his chin in his hand and didn't react at all. Damn it. Is he asleep? He'd actually been ignored. He couldn't tolerate it. In the past 200 years, he'd gone through endless hardships and finally reached perfection of the 9th star. It could be said that he was at the peak of the King realm. Who would dare to look down on him? Now, a young brat actually dared to look down on him? Even if he was from the Qi clan, he still couldn't. How stubborn. Since it's like this, then die. The Bloody Blade Monarch roared as he drew a gray sword and swung it down. As he swung his sword, the Bloody Blade Monarch behind him fused into it and transformed into a blood-red rune that descended from the sky with an extremely terrifying baleful aura. Shit. At this moment, the elders and experts in the surroundings trembled. Even the Bloody Blade Monarch was drenched in cold sweat. "Young master." The Bloody Blade Monarch couldn't help but exclaim when he saw that Lin Xian still hadn't moved. At this moment, the sword had already swung down. It struck Lin Xian's shoulder. Clang. A thunderous sound resounded as a terrifying wave of energy blasted out in all directions. The Bloody Blade Monarch, Madame Hua, and the elders in the surroundings were all sent flying. They smashed into the hall's formation in the distance and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Shit. They raised their heads and stared ahead. He'd hit. A wisp of a smile curled up on the corners of the Bloody Blade Monarch's mouth. He could already see the young man's body being split in half. However, in the next moment, his smile froze and he even became terrified. Impossible. Damn it. How could this be? His attack had indeed struck the young man's body, but the young man's body hadn't split open. There wasn't even a crack on it, let alone any blood. Moreover, what shocked him even more was that his entire arm had gone numb. It was as if this move hadn't struck a human body but a mountain. As he watched in horror, the gray sword in his hand emitted cracking sounds before it was covered in cracks. With a clang, it shattered into pieces. Broken. Lone Wolf's face turned green. His treasured sword had actually been shattered. What kind of person was this? What kind of physique was this? At this moment, Lone Wolf was extremely horrified. In the distance, the Bloody Blade Monarch and the others were dumbfounded as they swallowed their saliva. They knew that Lin Xian was very powerful, but they hadn't expected that Lin Xian would be so powerful. That was a powerful attack from a 9-star Great Circle expert. Even if all of them worked together, they still wouldn't be able to block it. However, Lin Xian didn't dodge at all. He blocked the attack with his physical strength alone. This was too heaven-defying. Lin Xian frowned slightly as his soul left the black earth. In the next moment, he raised his head and looked ahead at the terrified Lone Wolf. With a wave of his hand, a beam of light struck the young man's body. With a bang, the young man's heart was pierced and a bloody hole appeared. Ah! Lone Wolf was struck to the ground as he screamed like a madman. However, at his level, a broken heart wasn't a big deal. He could just heal it. However, in the next moment, he was horrified to discover that his heart couldn't heal at all. Even the bloody hole couldn't heal. He felt that the vitality in his body was rapidly draining away. Damn it, what kind of technique is this? The person in front of me is definitely very terrifying. Lone Wolf's life experience told him that the young man in front of him wasn't someone he could provoke. Therefore, his soul instantly left his body and flew into the distance. He was about to fly out of the hall. Chapter 3143. Ah! Lone Wolf's soul twisted and tumbled in the air. Soon there was no more sound. The entire hall was quiet and there was only a corpse lying there. The Bloody Blade Monarch, Madame Hua, and the other elders were all stunned. Was Lone Wolf dead? They didn't dare to believe it. That was a consummate level 9-star. Previously, no one had been able to suppress him with how powerful he was. However, Lin Xian merely moved his finger and glanced at him and he was dead. Young master. The Bloody Blade Monarch and the others stood up and looked at Lin Xian with trembling eyes. Lin Xian stood up from his blood-red throne and said coldly with his hands behind his back, "All right, Lone Wolf is dead. No one can threaten you anymore. You just have to collect the spiritual herbs for me. If you're as slow as you are now, don't blame me for not letting you off." He then glanced at the Bloody Blade Monarch. The Bloody Blade Monarch knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Don't worry, young master. I'll do my best to collect the spiritual herbs." Madame Hua and the other elders also knelt on the ground and prostrated themselves. It was too terrifying. They couldn't resist at all. He could kill a peak 9-star king as easily as killing an ant. If he wanted to kill them, it would only take a blink of an eye. "All right, get up." Lin Xian waved his hand and said, "Get rid of the corpse. Also, is there a secret room for cultivation? Give me one. I want to cultivate in seclusion here." "Yes, I'll prepare it for young master." The Bloody Blade Monarch and the others hurriedly prepared. Soon Lin Xian entered the best secret room. He set up a formation and sat down cross-legged. His current priority was to collect the spiritual herbs for the breakthrough sage pill. However, he had already handed this matter to the Myriad Herb Hall and Wangong. Therefore, he only needed to wait and collect them when the time came. There was one more thing, which was the Tianfeng Pavilion's grand meeting. However, it seemed like it would take a month or two. Therefore, Lin Xian planned to cultivate again during this time. At the same time, Lin Xian instructed the Bloody Blade Monarch to pay attention to the Tianfeng Pavilion. When the Tianfeng Pavilion had news, he would inform him. A month later, Lin Xian received the news and opened his eyes. He stood up and walked out of the secret room. After a month of cultivation, his cultivation had become even more stable. "Young master, the Tianfeng Pavilion is about to open," Bloody Blade Monarch said respectfully from outside. At the same time, he took out another storage ring. These were the spiritual herbs he had collected over the past month. Other than a few precious herbs that he couldn't collect for the time being, the rest of the spiritual herbs were all here. Lin Xian nodded slightly after probing with his soul spirit. There were a total of 200 stalks. Including the 100 stalks he had collected earlier, he now had over 300 stalks. In addition to the 300 stalks in Lin Xian's hands, it could be said that he had already collected half of the materials needed for the breakthrough sage pill. Of course, this was only the first batch. Thus, he ordered that 2 more batches of the same type of spiritual medicine be gathered for him. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you if you follow me. After the matter is settled, I will help you defeat the other 2 spirit herb giants of Great Armor City and let you be the sole ruler. Upon hearing this, the Bloody Blade Monarch's eyes burned with passion. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and thanked young master. The other 2 giants weren't any weaker than the 10,000 herb hall. Furthermore, they had the support of large family clans. It could be said that it would be very difficult to move there. However, things would be different with Lin Xian around. Next, the Bloody Blade Monarch continued to collect herbs. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He wondered how Wan Gong and the other large family clans were doing. Previously, there had been a total of 8 disciples from large family clans. Given the strength of these families, they should be able to collect half of the herbs. This way he would more or less be able to collect 1 stalk of spiritual medicine. Of course, there were about 10 stalks of spiritual medicine that were very precious. It wouldn't be easy to collect them in a short period of time. However, he wasn't afraid. He still had a trump card, which was the Qi family. As long as he cured the Qi family patriarch's injuries, the Qi family would definitely repay him. When the time came, he could ask for those few stalks of spiritual medicine as compensation. Given the Qi family's strength, it wouldn't be difficult to collect those few stalks of spiritual medicine. To be honest, it wouldn't be a problem for Lin Xian to collect them himself. However, he didn't have that much energy. Moreover, he didn't have that much time. Although they might not meet on the ancient star path, everyone was racing against time. Whoever was 1 step ahead might be ahead for a lifetime. Therefore, whenever Lin Xian had the chance, he would do his best to comprehend the great Tao of heaven and earth and comprehend the Pill Saint's notes. As for things like collecting spiritual medicine, he would leave it to his subordinates. However, Lin Xian's forces were all in the true spirit world. He couldn't bring the people of Immortal Palace to the ancient star path. Therefore, he could only use force to subdue them on the spot and use them for his own use. He wondered what good pill cauldrons were in the Heavenly Square Pavilion. Could they pique his interest? He narrowed his eyes and left the 1,000 herb hall. He didn't go to the Heavenly Square Pavilion to play. Nalan Yanran had told him that a very magical pill cauldron would appear there. And he would need a pill cauldron if he wanted to refine pills in the future. Therefore, this time he was going for that cauldron. At night, the stars twinkled and the moonlight was bright. A large river surged, reflecting the moonlight like swimming fish. On both sides of the river were 2 towering mountains. The spiritual qi on the mountains was abundant. Tiger roars and ape cries could be heard from time to time. Between the 2 mountains was a palace that looked like a heavenly palace. It was brightly lit inside. The light even shone down to the 9 heavens. This was the Heavenly Square Pavilion. At this moment, the Heavenly Square Pavilion could be said to be very lively. On the 2 mountains, strange beasts stopped in the surrounding void, roaring ferociously. There were also war chariots and spirit boats. Every one of them was extraordinary. At this moment, figures walked down from these strange beasts, spirit boats, and war chariots. Most of them were young. They were outstanding and had strong auras. There was even a hint of arrogance between their brows. Needless to say, these were all genius disciples of big families. At this moment, they were naturally here to participate in the Heavenly Square Pavilion's grand meeting. Outside the Heavenly Square Pavilion, there was a woman standing there. This woman was dressed in white. Her beautiful hair hung down to her shoulders. Her skin was like the finest jade. The geniuses of the big families and sacred grounds looked over from time to time. Yanran, why are you still standing outside? Hurry up and go in. A few beautiful women walked over. It turned out that this white-clothed woman was Nalan Yanran. She seemed to be waiting for someone. Her companions around her also noticed. Are you waiting for someone? Nalan Yanran came back to her senses and winked playfully. He should be coming. She wanted to wait a little longer, but she was pulled into the Heavenly Square Pavilion by her companions. More and more people walked into the Heavenly Square Pavilion. These young geniuses met each other, greeted each other, and then began to talk. Chapter 3144. Have you heard? That Nether King is very powerful. I was there at the time. He's within 1,000,000 miles of the void. Anyone who goes in will die. What? Is he really that powerful? Although that battle attracted countless people to watch, Cloud Return Planet was so vast with billions of people. Not everyone went to watch the battle. Most people had only heard of the legends. Now that they heard that someone was there personally, they were naturally interested. In an instant, everyone surrounded him. That's right, I heard that even Gao Peng was defeated. Is that true? Also, it said that Lin Wudi defeated the Nether King. Who is he? Which sect is he from? Do you know what that Lin Wudi looks like? The young man who was surrounded scratched his head and said with a smile. Well, actually, I wasn't there at the time. My grandfather was there. But my grandfather told me when he came back. I guarantee that he didn't miss a single detail. Tiske. Hearing that, many people curled their lips. My father was still there. What's the use of that? We didn't see it with our own eyes. These people shook their heads in disgust. They were very excited at times and very nervous at times. In short, the name Lin Wudi had spread like wildfire. Of course, there were also people who snorted coldly. What Lin Wudi? He was too arrogant. Did he really think that he was invincible after defeating the Nether King? How could it be that simple? The world was so big and there were so many geniuses. Who dared to call themselves invincible in the universe? Hearing that, many people were very unhappy. Although they knew that Lin Wudi was a supreme existence who had defeated the Nether King. Who dared to refute that? However, when they saw the person who spoke, their bodies trembled, and a look of shock appeared in their eyes. Qin Ruffing, the young master of the Qin family. His identity and strength were very terrifying. It could be said that he was very dazzling among these prodigies. Of course, compared to Gao Peng and the Nether King, he was far inferior. After all, those two were prodigies who had comprehended the Tao. However, prodigies like Gao Peng and the Nether King were too far away from these people. Therefore, in their eyes, this Qin Ruffing was more intimidating. After all, he was alive and well in front of them. And people like Lin Wudi only existed in legends. That's right, Lin Wudi is just a legend. You dare to be arrogant in front of our young master Qin? Be careful, we'll beat you down. Qin Ruffing was surrounded by a group of young people. They were like stars surrounding the moon with Qin Ruffing in the center. Qin Ruffing waved his hand. Alright, this is a grand event. Don't fight. As he spoke, he raised his head and arrogantly walked forward. Soon his eyes lit up. Yanran. When she saw Nalan Yanran standing there, she immediately went up to her. Wow, it's young Master Qin. Seeing Qin Ruffing walking over, the women around Nalan Yanran also smiled like flowers and hurriedly greeted him. They couldn't wait to throw themselves into his arms. Qin Ruffing was the young master of the Qins, a terrifying existence. Although they were also disciples of large families, their families could not compare to Qinjia at all. Qin Ruffing was naturally happy to see these beauties. However, his gaze still landed on Nalan Yanran. Nalan Yanran had an ethereal temperament. This temperament was not present in the women around her. Therefore, Qin Ruffing had his eyes on Nalan Yanran. However, Nalan Yanran was not very interested in Qin Ruffing. She wasn't interested in him in the past and even less so now. She was always absent-minded because she was thinking about someone. Although she didn't know who that person was, his skills and elegance were far superior to everyone in the hall. He wasn't someone that Qin Ruffing could compare to. Yanran, young Master Qin is here to see you. Why are you so absent-minded? Those women naturally knew what Qin Ruffing was thinking, so they hurriedly pulled Yanran over to chat. Yanran smiled politely as she held a glass of wine made by the subservient nerves. However, in her heart, she was wondering whether he would come or not. At this moment, a lone boat was flying quickly in the surging river outside the Tianfang Pavilion. A figure stood on the lone boat with his hands behind his back. Oh, there was a white Xiaoho on his shoulder. It was eating spirit fruits while blinking its black gem-like eyes. I know, we're almost there. The young man in red was Lin Xian. He rubbed Xiaoho's head and looked into the distance. Between the two mountains there were rays of light. Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. This must be the Tianfang Pavilion. With a sway of his body, he rose into the air and flew into the distance. Soon he arrived in front of the Tianfang Pavilion. As expected, the Tianfang Pavilion required an invitation. However, Lin Xian was invited in after he mentioned Qi Siyu's name. After entering, Lin Xian was surprised by the number of people. The hall was very vast and decorated splendidly. There were all kinds of spirit wines and spirit fruits. The geniuses walked and chatted. Lin Xian's arrival did not attract much attention. Oh. The little white monkey's eyes flickered when it saw the spirit fruits around. It swayed its body and rushed over quickly. Like a flash of white lightning, it took more than 10 fruits in an instant and hugged them in its arms. This scene caused many people to exclaim. Oh, it's so fast. What's that? It's a little monkey. So cute. When they saw the little white monkey land on Lin Xian's shoulder, they all turned their heads. Xiaohou picked up the spirit fruit and took a bite. Immediately, it showed a very disdainful look and threw away all the spirit fruits. It even spat out its saliva. The little monkey was so cute. It couldn't be. These were all top-grade spirit fruits. Why didn't this guy like them? What a waste. Hearing this, Xiaohou was disdainful. Top-grade spirit fruits? What a joke. The trashiest spirit fruits it ate in the Black Earth were better than the best ones here. Although the Tianfang Pavilion was powerful and provided good spirit fruits, it was only in the eyes of these people. How could Lin Xian and the little white monkey be ordinary? Xiaohou was a treasure hunter and Lin Xian was even more powerful. One of the spirit fruits in their hands was enough to shock these geniuses. Xiaohou's cute performance attracted the attention of many women. They came over one after another wanting to exchange with Lin Xian. In the end, Lin Xian didn't care at all. What a joke, Xiaohou was his friend. Who was this person? He was so arrogant. No idea. Could it be that he was a disciple of some major clan? Seeing Lin Xian's cool expression, these people were also discussing spiritedly. They couldn't see Lin Xian's depth, but Lin Xian was very handsome, so it attracted the interest of these women. Lin Xian looked around, picked up a cup of spirit wine from the table and drank a mouthful. He stood there as if he didn't fit in with the surroundings. It seemed that it would take some time before the noble pill cauldron would be displayed. Before that, let's wait for a while. He didn't have the intention to chat with the crowd. This scene was even stranger in the eyes of the people around. In their opinion, this was a strange person. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.